Time is approximately forever.
We cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
Please continue to hold for the next available representative. Please. Just keep waiting.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
We appreciate you waiting and waiting. What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Disconnected.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new live stream, our first primary election stream in about a month. But we are back. We are ready to go. We have results out of Pennsylvania. Very early vote, mainly mail-in vote that we see out of Allegheny County. Very liberal parts of Pittsburgh. Trump so far with a lead. Probably going to see that lead expand as the night goes on. If it doesn't, not really a great night for him, but it likely will. I will say that. And the target margin for Trump is probably somewhere in the mid-80s. It's true last time around he got 93.2% in the Pennsylvania primary, but he was an incumbent president. You know, he was getting in the 80s in a lot of these counties around, suburban Philadelphia. So we'll see how it shakes out tonight for sure as the results come in. Also, there's some down ballot races we'll get to as well. So I'd have to say that Trump, if he gets in the high 80s, great night. If he gets in the low to mid 80s, like 83, 84, it's fine. It's sufficient. If he gets like 75, high 70s-ish, that might be time to panic because there weren't a lot of early votes before, if any early votes before Haley dropped out. Now, I do expect Democrats to have higher turnout overall because of the fact that Democrats in Pennsylvania, they love to vote by mail. Republicans don't, in like a low propensity primary where there's not a lot at stake. And the fact that Pennsylvania has more registered Democrats, even though that's shrinking, if you watch my last video, it's very good news for Republicans on that front, but still very early on. And it's just a decided primary regardless. So I wouldn't read too much into the fact, if Biden gets more votes than Trump, he probably should objectively get more votes than Trump given the circumstances. Doesn't mean that he's going to win the state come November. So I do have to preface that. I don't expect Trump to get more votes than Biden, but you have more votes in here, 21% out of Northampton County, and Donald Trump is 72% in Northampton in the early vote there. Keep in mind, last time around, he got 92.8%. So a little bit lower, but, again, early vote. We'll see how it shakes out as we get closer to the election day vote when that pours in as well. So let's see what chat has to say. We have 1,000 live viewers. Hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel as well. We're going to get to super chats as well throughout the night. Haven't forgotten super chats. If you guys want to send in any super chats, feel free to do so. We'll get to them at some point during the live stream. I don't really have an agenda for the stream other than covering the primary. So we'll just cover the primary and we'll see what happens. But on the other hand, Joe Biden, there's no uncommitted option. It's him and Dean Phillips, closed primary. He's probably going to get over 90% of the vote in New York State. So we'll see what happens there. But we'll see. Johnny Heartdog for 10 says 9 weeks till I leave Washington State and move to Alaska. If you were in my shoes, you would be excited too. On a similar note, my sister got attacked by a moose near downtown. Luckily, she got away. Well, that sounds like Alaska, Alaska problems, I guess. Also, my dad was in Pennsylvania and said it was Trump country. That was in Blair County. Well, Blair County is a very, very pro-Trump area. Went for him by 44 percentage points in the 2020 election. We'll see how it shakes out as the night goes on, but early Philadelphia coming in, Trump beating Haley 2-1 in the early votes. We'll see how the election day vote shakes out. If this margin holds statewide, it is something that people will likely find a little bit concerning. But again, that's very little of the state. It is mainly early votes. We'll see how the state reports their votes as the night goes on as well. Also, Mark Kovich says Dauphin County, Pennsylvania resident here, voted for Trump, McCormick, and Perry. Hopefully the turnout is big. Well, we'll have to see. We could look at the Attorney General. That's like the only competitive statewide primary as well. I don't really even know which candidate is considered to be like the more conservative candidate or whatever, but this was Josh Shapiro's seat. Now, the House races, this is interesting here. Summer Lee, a member of the squad, we're talking about, inner city Pittsburgh. She potentially could get primaried out. She's been very pro-Palestine. You have the Israel lobby, they're behind, I believe, the opponent. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that race there in the 12th district. That's close, but we'll see, election day votes, things like that, if that potentially could be a flip, because that's a 10-point margin. Will the squad start losing primaries? Seems like Ilhan Omar was very close last time. I don't think AOC goes down. She's kind of, they put a muzzle on her basically. So, we'll see what happens. But either way, they've called a lot of these races on the Republican side. There's the 7th district, Ryan McKenzie going up against Maria Montero. And the 1st district, Fitzpatrick's probably going to win. I think it's a waste of time to primary him because it's a blue district. He's not perfect. He's not ideal, but he's in a blue district. So it's a little bit different. If he was in a deep red district, he should have been primaried out a long time ago, but he kind of gets to coast by on the fact that, he's not. So there's that. But still, this is our election coverage so far. Trump at 65, Haley at 35. Trump's going to want to increase his margin by a decent amount, and he probably will as more votes do get counted, early votes out of Bucks County. He's at 63 in Bucks County. He's at 66 in Philadelphia County. But again, that's 20% of the vote. We don't know where the votes are coming from. We don't know what the remaining votes are going to look like. But this is a closed primary. It is important to note that. Still, you do have some ancestrally registered Republicans in some places that probably voted for Biden in 2020 are not really identifying as Republicans in this day and age too. So we'll see as the results pour in. So we have more super chats. Gerald Armstrong, I don't know if I read. Ethan and Brighton Production says, Pennsylvania voter here. Love your content, rep, praying hard. Well, thank you. Gerald Armstrong says, I didn't vote for Glenn Thompson in Pennsylvania's 15th today. His Ukraine vote did it for me. I won't vote for him in the general either. Well, I'm pretty sure it's a safe district, so I don't know how much of an impact it's going to make. Tyler R. says, can you keep watch on Pennsylvania's 80th Barger May BTFO Gregory? Well, I don't think we have any results in yet, so we can look as the night goes on, potentially as we get results, as the results pour in. Christopher Morse has voted for Trump in Northampton County this morning. Christian Knox says, hey, Rep, love all your coverage. Pittsburgh reporting in. What do you think of all the poll workers deliberately giving out wrong ballots? Surprised me. I didn't hear about that. I really don't have anything to say about it until I see the report. But, yeah, I don't know why they were exactly doing that. But if they were doing it, that's not a good thing. But Sir Thanks a Lot says, I live in Bucks. There's just zero campaign against Fitzpatrick. That's probably true. Lord Farquaad says, voted for Trump in Chester County today. Hopefully he could do better here than he did in 2020. I think so. You look at the registrations. I think so. I think he will do better in a place like Chester, arguably, just because of the fact that Democrats, they might be hitting a wall. I mean, you look at 2022, Oz even outran Trump. Mastriano didn't even he didn't even do that poorly compared to some of the other suburban counties, despite him, doing far worse statewide. So there's that. I don't really know how you would interpret that. But is it possible that, a corner could be being turned because Biden is just that unpopular, Democrats taking the suburbs for granted? Yeah, it's entirely possible and entirely true. But you got a lot of votes in Philadelphia County, 27% in Biden with 45,000 votes. Philadelphia County, that's the biggest county, showcases that there's not a ridiculous amount of enthusiasm for him. You can go back to 2020 in the Pennsylvania primary. You can go back here and look at Philadelphia County, and you could see that, he got 120,000 votes there too. So maybe he could get that or close to that margin when it's said and done. But so far, 45,000, we'll see. But he's going to need a lot of votes there in November. He's going to need like a 400,000 vote lead on Trump in November. That would probably not even be enough for him to take the state. It might not be, but especially as Philadelphia itself is moving to the right. So we have more votes in Delaware County, Trump winning those votes 89-11. That's probably election day vote. York County, 14% in. Again, Donald Trump, these are probably early votes. We'll see as the results pour in, but that's not the best margin. But Monroe County, 18%, Trump at 74. That's starting to look like what you would expect in a lot of these counties. He's probably going to do better than that when it's all said and done. The Haley campaign, they haven't really been a thing for a while. I feel like people that just get the ballots, it's like the Dean Phillips voters, potentially. We might see more when the T starts to fill in, but there's no real uncommitted movement in Pennsylvania on the Democrat side, so that's important to keep in mind. Let's see. Gerald Armstrong says, yes, I'm aware it's a safe red district. Unfortunately, I live in blue Center County. Well, Center County registrations are moving to the right. Young voters, they're not enthused. They're not. They care more about the Palestine stuff than they care about anything Biden's talking about. Maybe you energize some people on the abortion issue. That's why he's hammering it home. It's not really moving the needle a whole lot so far, so we'll really see. But, yeah. So 1,600 live viewers. Make sure you like the stream down below. We have more votes coming in. I don't know where they exactly came in from, but Donald Trump, he's at 65.5. That's going to go up as the night goes on. A lot of these are early votes. A lot of these are votes that are reported from blue areas as well. So like I said, if he gets in the mid-80s, you can say that that's a decent thing for him. There was no real, I guess you would say, campaign for Donald Trump getting voters out because it's already a done deal. Plain and simple. It's already a done deal. Beaumonji Igloo says, do you think Scott Pressler's registration push will make an impact? Well, all registration pushes make an impact. And yeah, there you go. Lebanon County, 90-10 Trump. That's starting to look like the margins we were expecting in some of these counties. But in terms of Scott Pressler, he does good work. I think it's a good thing, but people need to stop falling on him as a crutch and get involved themselves because you have one person. Maybe if he registers 10,000 voters, that's great, but that's not enough. We need probably tens of, or 1,000 at least, people in every swing state doing exactly everything that he's doing. You want to say he should spearhead the effort? Fine, I agree that wouldn't be a bad move, but he's not the only one. You need a lot more people involved than just one guy. So 83-17 in Mercer County, 92-8 in Erie. Those are probably election day votes. Lackawanna County, Scranton, 24 votes, all for Donald Trump. Biden, on the other hand, let's go to the Biden. He's at 182,000 votes, but again, a lot of that is just mail-in vote across the state. I said Democrats would have higher turnout. I said that on several streams just because they have higher registrations. Biden's been in the state a lot lately. It's not really like this primary has a ridiculous amount of impact for the general, so long as Trump's able to improve on that margin, which it seems like he's going to do as more votes come in. Some of these counties probably be getting in the 90s when they eventually start to come in. But anyways, guys, make sure you like the stream down below. Subscribe. We have votes in out of Clinton County. This might even be early vote. And Trump is almost to 80% in the early vote in Clinton County. Clinton County, if you want to go back to 2020, relative to the state, which, again, it's not the best indicator. But Clinton County, 97.7. So he did 4 points better than statewide. So it's probably going to move right as all of the votes come in Clinton County. Let's see. We don't have any more super chats, but guys, make sure you like the stream. Let's get to 1,000 likes. We have 1,700 live viewers. Hit the like button. This is one of, I would say not the last primary stream we're going to do, but it's one of the last presidential primaries because you want to look at the calendar. We've done pretty much every primary so far. A lot of people that are voting in these things are just disinterested, plain and simple. You're probably not going to see high turnout on both sides of the presidential primary. You'll see higher vote in the Democrat side because there's more registered Democrats. They basically are sending everybody a ballot pretty much. Republicans need to be voting by absentee if they can. Doesn't mean they have to send it via the mail, but they need to get the ballot and take it in, drop it off. Democrats do it. We don't do it. We don't know what we're doing at the 11th hour. It's kind of an issue. So the Iranian Putin says, thank you for your time, and he gifted 1 membership. Thank you to the Iranian Putin. As more votes come in, we have Luzerne County, 98-2 Trump, very early in that county. Wyoming County, 91-9 Trump. So we'll see. We have a lot of votes that haven't come in yet. Haley's definitely going to fall down quite a bit. Mike Casmo, too, says, Bomani stole my question. Props to Pressler and props to Red. Thank you. We're definitely in a fight. People that are going to say, oh, well, this is going to be a easy election. Like, it's not going to be an easy election. You can't underestimate your opposition. That's not me dooming. That's me just telling people that they need to understand reality. We saw the past couple election cycles. I think that there's a lot of good things going for Trump that weren't going for Republicans in 2022, that were not going for Trump in 2020. So there's a lot to, look at and say this is good. And that speaks volumes that he's in a better position despite everything they've thrown at him. If anything, it's helped him. It hasn't hurt him. But we have a very long, long way to go in this election, and we need people out and voting because that's all that matters. There's more than enough people in this country to hand the White House back to Trump, but we need to make it happen. Jeeger says, any polls on Brandon v. Gonzalez? He royally pissed me off, calling him and other Republicans Nazis on CNN. Yes, also it's pronounced Jaeger. It's Germanic. Well, technically, like Jägermeister, the liqueur. It's technically pronounced that way. So that's true. I don't see any polling on it. I covered this in my last stream on Sunday, which is in the archive playlist on the in the playlist section. So more votes in. I think Erie County dumped their early vote, and Haley is at 36 in Erie County. I don't think that's going to hold, but we'll see. Again, not a lot of Republicans vote early, and the Republicans that do vote early, a lot of them are ancestral Republicans. They're not necessarily as likely to cast a ballot for Trump, even if they do end up voting for Trump at the end of the day. So there's that. Cindy Silfies for $9.99. Thank you for the super chat. But yeah, Like I said, you can't underestimate. That's obviously it's a primary. Biden's going to end up with, it seems like around, I don't think he's going to get 1 million votes. I don't think he's going to get 1 million. He'll get close to it though. Republicans so far, it's hard to really gauge where it's at just given the fact that we have a lot of early vote out of these, blue counties. The fact that it's a 5-1 Democrat dump compared to Republicans that we've seen so far is encouraging that Trump's definitely going to get his margin out there. Matthew Schneider says, I'm never going to underestimate Biden. I'm voting for Trump in the general regardless. Yeah, we can't underestimate these people. They will do anything possible to lie, and it's gotten blatant because in 2020, it was already bad, but they were able to weasel their way out of it. Whatever. Now they can't, like even Biden's getting fact checked sometimes by CNN. Of course, it's like the tamest possible fact check they could give somebody. But the fact that Biden's everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. Like in 2020, at least you could say he was just like, he was virtue signaling, whatever. He lied a lot too. I'm not saying he didn't, but it's getting worse. And they will do anything. And the reason why there's hope is because he has to lie and gaslight the American public to have a shot at victory. They have to imprison their political opponent to have a shot at victory. Now they're seething because Republicans are putting poll watchers, or they're investing in more poll watchers, saying this is going to make it's voter intimidation. It's like, okay, because they just happen to see, they're basically just setting it up where if you have a more secure system possibly, and maybe Trump hypothetically does better this time than last time, they want another insurance policy. If Trump wins, they want to be able to say that it was an illegitimate victory. They're the biggest hypocrites in the world. They're the biggest sore losers in the world. You name it, the same thing that they say, they just embody it, and they own up to it. Which is really saying something. Republicans care a lot about what the left thinks about them. Democrats, they don't care about what Republicans think about them. But to this point, could it be to their detriment? It's entirely possible. 9-inch Pincher says, I'm leaving the state of California in July. Will I have enough time to update my voter registration in the state of Nevada in time? I think so. I think you should. And that's good. That's +1 for Trump right there. I think Nevada's going to flip. I think Georgia's going to flip. The rest of the states, they're winnable, I think, for both. We got to be very, very careful. I think Trump is the favorite. But we got to, like I said, if there's no turnout, there's no victory. So far, if this holds up, it seems as if Republicans and Democrats probably are going to be around even in the turnout game, although it is true Trump probably is going to run behind Joe Biden because of Nikki Haley. Now, she's not going to end up with 34%. If she is, that would be a warning sign of something went severely wrong, either, in terms of turnout or whatever. But I don't think it's that big of a problem. I mean, we saw what happened in Wisconsin. Haley, she got, some early vote back then. That was in, maybe, a month, not even a month after she formally dropped out. So it's a little bit different. But this time is not really that early vote window. That's not a real big excuse. It's not an open primary either. So Trump is going to gain as the votes come in. He already went from like 60 to 67, and hopefully he's going to keep running up the score as we go on. But let's see. But yeah, I think Nevada, that's a state that probably is going to come out and vote for Trump. I think Trump in Clark County, if there's like a surprise county flip like we saw almost with Miami-Dade in 2020, you could say Clark County has the recipe for it. I don't think Democrats are going to put that many resources into Nevada. I'm not saying Republicans will either, but it's not a state that likely is going to impact the election unless Trump loses Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Arizona, but wins Michigan and Georgia. That would be the state that would decide the election. It's a possible path, but it's not the most likely. So more votes coming in. Deep red vote dumps, by the way, very deep red out of the areas that we've seen so far. Trump expanding his margin as more votes pour in, mainly election day, but he's even in Westmoreland County getting in the 90s with election day votes. That's a good sign, assuming it holds up statewide. We got 95% to go, and we already have early vote dumps in Philly, Pittsburgh, suburbs of Philadelphia. Obviously, not every collar county has their early votes in. So we'll see. Doomsday Machine says it won't be an easy election, but by no means will it be as hard as 2020 or 2022. You won't have to fight the RNC. Biden's unpopular, and people saying Trump had the stronger record. Well, it's true, but they need to get out and vote. And I think Trump did a good thing with the abortion issue, just hands off, not touching a third rail like so many other people wanted him to do. Ironically, the people that complain about his electability wanted him to do. So that's that. And yeah, the whole, turnout thing, ground game, it's not everything, but Trump definitely needs to keep hammering home the border. That's the one issue that he should be talking about. Not saying he can't tweet about or truth about his trials or whatever, but in terms of his campaign, it needs to be border, 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 just the entire way. Biden opened the border. He supports open borders. He is a weak leader, can't get anything done, blames everybody except for himself, lies about the economy. Like, there's just so much there. I mean, everything they have is a hoax. Trials are a hoax. The suckers and losers hoax is a hoax. Meanwhile, Biden's talking about his grandfather being eaten by cannibals or great uncle or whatever. It never happened. It literally never happened. Like, the guy is senile. He was already senile in 2020, but I watched the Biden gaffe compilation that I made this morning back in 2020. You probably would have to go through hundreds of videos just to find it, but basically what came out of it was, yeah, he was already like losing his mind at times, but it was spotty. You know, when he would talk, he didn't sound as old as he is now. It's gotten worse. It has gotten worse. And now that he's been a leader, you can't brush it off and be like, oh, well, he's just old Joe. He's, no, he's a bad leader and he's weak. And you see that with what happened with the Afghanistan withdrawal. You see what happened with the Iran thing, saying don't sheepishly, and then just walking away from the podium, getting lost, and then they still did it anyways. So Machongo says, keep telling it like it is, even if it's not what we want to hear. It makes you a standout in this arena. Well, I thank you, and I think that, it's exactly what I've been doing. It's not necessarily as if I've changed any, position on anything. It's just more of the fact that we need to be serious about this and not take it for granted, because I feel like we did take 2022 for granted. I think a lot of people did. People decided to blame me instead of literally everybody, blame the polling industry. I did a video on that a couple days ago talking about why 2024 is not going to be exactly like 2022 based off of what we learned about 2022. There's a lot to be hopeful for. The question is, down the stretch, it's going to be one. We're not to the conventions yet. We got a long way to go. That's kind of where it comes in from. Johnny Heartdog says, if you were to offer constructive criticism to Trump's campaign and tell him how he should campaign better, what would the constructive criticism be? Well, I probably would just tell him to keep hammering on the border. It needs to be border, 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 economy, foreign policy, economy, border, border. Okay, we have a lot more votes in. Trump gaining. Let's see if these are early. I don't know where the dump came in from, but these, like I said, the Haley votes, a lot of these are early, the early vote dump, but a lot of these states that are like, or these counties, some of these that are going like 93-7, like those are probably election day votes. So this is going to increase. This is going to decrease, at least in the percentage column. The question is by how much. I said Trump, his target is like in the low to mid 80s. That'd be a good night for him in Pennsylvania. And if he gets in the high 80s, it's good for him. But if he gets below 80, maybe there's some question marks there. But he's already at almost to 70. He's probably going to get up there as more votes come in, just because you got Philadelphia, obviously Chester and Montgomery. Those are probably election day votes. So we'll monitor that as it comes in. But Mike Cosmo 2 says, will swings in the Union and black vote in Pennsylvania be a game changer? People talk about the black vote. I think it's more black turnout, because if you're going to see lower black turnout, you're probably going to see, Pennsylvania. It's definitely going to help out Trump in Philadelphia, going to help him out in Pittsburgh. You have this disaffected, black population. They don't like Biden that much. They're probably going to still vote 85% Democrat. I don't trust the polls or the crosstabs that say Trump's getting 30% of the black vote. I also don't trust the crosstabs that show him only getting 58% with white working class voters, because those are also likely garbage. I think in terms of the union vote, possible swings there could be very decisive in northeastern Pennsylvania. So we'll see as the election season ramps up. We got a long way to go, but there's a lot to be hopeful for. There's a lot to be hopeful for. I will say, more so than 2020, more so than 2018, 2022, 2023. So there's that. More votes in for Trump. More votes came in for Trump. Early vote, Lycoming County, 73% for Trump. That's going to go up likely as the results come in, and we'll go from there. But he's at 68% already. Even these rural areas, the mail-in votes are going to increase that total. Let's see. Tanner Reeves says, I never understood why and how do they report Democrats and Republicans separately in vote count reporting at our election sites. They're uploaded together. Well, because they count certain batches. I mean, they're counting mail-in batches. Obviously, that's why Democrats are going to be higher than Republicans. This county election day vote in Cambria County, though, Dean Phillips at 38%. It's one precinct, very small, but still, like I said, in some of these other counties, yeah, Dean could crack 10, but there's no uncommitted movement. I don't think you're going to see young voters in Center County back Dean Phillips. A lot of them just won't decide to show up. That's kind of Biden's Achilles heel more so than anything else. And a lot of young voters, too, they're not affiliated with a party. They can't vote in this primary. Same thing goes with a lot of Donald Trump supporters in Pennsylvania. A lot of Trump supporters in Pennsylvania still a registered Democrat in some places, believe it or not. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. And also why, if you look at the 2020 primary, places like Chester County, you know, they were giving Bill Weld double digits, despite the fact that Bill Weld was a nobody and he basically dropped out, because those are ancestral Republicans. Maybe they voted for the Republicans' treasurer candidate. They voted for the Republican for maybe not AG so much because Shapiro was strong, but they voted for DeFore, I believe. But yeah, it seems like this is coming down the wire. Dave Sunday, so far he's in the lead, but we'll see. We'll see as the results pour in. Democrat side, you got a more, well, I wouldn't say it's a more divisive primary, but there's more candidates, so technically. So this is where we're at right now. Now he cracked 67. Royal Doyle for 5 says, do you think the illegal aliens could be allowed to vote and affect the outcome? They technically can't vote. Now, there are isolated incidents where it could happen. There was a report about, you know, flyers being passed around in Mexico that told people to vote Biden. Now, I don't know what is really behind that. The whole, you know, Social Security number were causing voter registrations in Texas thing to skyrocket was fake. That was completely fake. You see that. I mean, you actually look at the results, and the Texas Secretary of State, Republican Secretary of State, came out and said they haven't even had 100,000 new registrations up to this point this year. I'm not worried about it whatsoever, but I am kind of, I mean, obviously we need poll watchers. We need voter ID. That's a big thing, is voter ID. Now, Texas, even though technically there's reports that you can try to register to vote without an identification, you do need a voter ID to vote, and that is a very good thing in terms of Texas. Same thing with a lot of other swing states. You need some form of ID. There's no reason for not having voter ID. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. You need an ID to do everything but not vote. If you want to say that, well, actually, these instances are technically rare or whatever, it might be rare, but 5 votes can impact an election. We're in that era. You look at Florida in 2000, you name it. You need voter ID. Doesn't matter. Needs to happen. Okay, so now you have more votes coming in. Where did these come in from? Delaware County. Delaware. Early votes out of Delaware County dumped in. Yeah, Haley might have even won that batch, believe it or not. Very ancestrally Republican there. I mean, Trump only got in Delaware County 86% of the 2020 vote, and definitely that's going to go up. He's going to be at way above 54 when it's all said and done, but still, there is a big stark contrast between the early vote in the deep red counties and the early vote in the collar counties in the Pittsburgh area, although certain parts of Pittsburgh are not exactly as, Democrat leaning. In fact, the suburbs around Pittsburgh have moved right in the Trump era. A lot of these counties were relatively friendly to Obama in both election cycles compared to how they are right now. So there's that. Someone says Trump is losing badly. He's not losing at all. I mean, he's at 67% of the vote, much of which is male from blue areas. Now, if this holds up at the end of the night, yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a concerning thing, but until that happens, I'm not going to sit here and push the panic button so far. Let's see. Let's go down. Let's look at some of these House races as well, House primaries. Seems like this is a dogfight. We don't have any new votes out of the 7th, but Ryan McKenzie. Also, Brian Fitzpatrick, he won his primary by a decent amount. Mark Hoke only got 17%. So that's not... I mean, obviously, I probably would have advised people not to vote for the primary challenge because it's a blue district. I mean, he is a rhino, but you have Bucks County, you have other parts of Philadelphia in there. That's a district that I think voted for Biden by quite a bit. So it's kind of pointless to say, we got a primary out Fitzpatrick. There's other races I probably would encourage Republicans focus on. You have a lot of other weak Republicans that you could see primaried out, but some nobody is not going to primary out somebody that's, well active in his district in terms of Fitzpatrick. But he's weak, but he represents a weak district, and he's probably a lot better than some of these deep red Republicans that are, voting with him 100% of the time on everything, which is a bigger notice of concern. And that's really what needs to be focused on. These deep red areas with weak Republicans, and you have to build a bench. If you want to actually knock out some of these people, even in a swing district that might be winnable, that's fine, but you got to build a bench. You got to be having people on the bench that are solid, people that have name recognition, an impressive resume. Like you see, even when it comes to deep red districts, to knock off an incumbent, you need somebody who's prominent to do it. In most cases, you just can't have some nobody from the internet who files for the election decide to go on and run. They're not necessarily going to win the primary, and if they do, they may not be that strong of a candidate for the general election, which is also kind of a problem, and we don't want that to happen at all. But let's see. I don't think we have any more Super Chats, but you guys can feel free to send more Super Chats in. We have 2,200 viewers. Like the stream. Let's get to 1,000 likes. We're almost there. And hit the subscribe button. Let's get to 178,000 subscribers. I know it's been a while since we hit a on-stream milestone, but we're close. We're close to it. So make sure you guys like the stream, subscribe to the channel. Let's keep going. As more votes come in for Trump out of, I believe, Blair County, I think that was the county that somebody super chatted about earlier, 92-8 in Blair County in favor of Donald Trump. So you look at that. That number increased once again. Mike Casmo 2 says, are there any polls that are historically accurate 6 months out from the general election? That's a really good question. The answer is, it depends. Polls are a snapshot in time. It's very possible that by election day, we might see a different picture of polling. And right now, Trump leads the polls by 0.2%, which, again, not a lot. But first of all, the popular vote doesn't matter. The Electoral College does. And Trump is leading every state in the popular vote in the five-way race. The one state he's not leading in the two-way race is Pennsylvania because of one outlier poll. But you look at it, Biden was up in October in 2020 in the polls by 10.3% on October 11th. So keep that in mind. And it took miracles for him to cross the finish line, miracles of sorts. Hillary Clinton in 2016 at this point, this day in history, she led by 9.9%. 9.9%. Did she win? Nope. She got embarrassed, technically. A lot of it was relative. The election was still close. This one will be close as well. But the smugness on the left is still at that level. They're back to lying. Trump is in his position as an outsider. He's still very strong. I'd like, him not to be on trial and on the trail. But he's still, he's still campaigning. He's in New York City. He's at his Trump Tower. That's where he headquartered his 2016 campaign. And that's also where he's having these world leaders come in. It just showcases him that he's fit for the job. He's presidential. And that's what the American people need to understand. I mean, a lot of people don't like Trump. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily closing the door on voting for him. Only 44% of the public so far says they're going to vote for Biden. That is not much higher than his approval rating, which is the number one indicator for the popular vote. So keep that in mind. We got to make sure people get out and vote. We need to make sure the messaging is on fire. In 2020, I was very proud to cast my first presidential ballot for Donald Trump. I was very proud of it. But I will say that at the same time, I don't believe that it was the best messaging. I don't believe that he had the leg up on all the issues. The country was in chaos, and that's not a good look. Now, because the country is still in many ways in chaos and everything's gotten worse by many metrics, that's a good thing for Trump, because Biden trying to blame Trump for the economy he's presided over and that's gotten worse under him, trying to blame Trump for immigration when he's opened the border, trying to blame Trump for even Roe v. Wade, when in reality, Biden has, he's done nothing. He didn't attempt to codify it when he had a trifecta. So, even looking at it from the left's position, it's not like Biden is really all that effective as a leader, and it's not like he's really somebody to, that's worth voting for. Now, it is true that his favorables are not super high. It's not going to be a landslide, but I think winning, period, is what needs to be done. So, okay, let's see. We have more results in, I don't know what county dropped. Okay, Bucks County dropped more, I think. We see that, but Westmoreland, I think, dropped a lot, and Trump gained in the percentage total. So 68.1 to 31.9, already 10%. He's gone up from 60 to 70. So will he crack 80? I don't know. Hopefully, but I don't know. Let's see. We have more super chats. Ben gifted a membership. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. And I'm sure somebody in chat does as well. Celeste says, I'm in Monroe County, Pennsylvania. Went out and voted for Trump. The only other Republican on the ballot was Haley. That's true. And we need all the votes. We need everybody turning out. I mean, in primaries, is it the best indicator? No. I mean, Biden probably gets more votes than Trump in this primary because there's more Democrats that are registered in Pennsylvania, and there's no uncommitted option. Let's see. The commander says Michigan's Natural Law Party backed RFK. They backed the alliance for 2020. If the alliance backs RFK, he'll get in the ballot in Alaska, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Minnesota, Mississippi, and South Carolina. Minnesota and Michigan are huge. Yeah, he's going to get in the ballot everywhere, I'm pretty sure. At least most states. And honestly, there's been some polls that show him taking more from Trump recently. I don't know what to make of that. I really don't. But those are also the polls that have him getting like 15% of the vote. He's not getting 15% of the vote. I don't care what planet you live on. RFK Jr. is not even probably going to get 5% of the vote. He is not Ross Perot 96 level even. He is Gary Johnson. At best, he'll get Gary Johnson margins. I don't even know if he gets that. And I think the people that are going to vote for him are probably people who just don't like Trump or Biden, but still want to get out and vote. So I'm not sure he's impacting the election a whole lot, but does he have a lot of soft support we need to get? Maybe. I think there's some support we could use from that. I don't know what the plan is going to be. But even in Montgomery County, Trump won the mail-in vote dump out of Montgomery. So that's something. Delaware County, similar thing. So long way to go. But even the mail-in dumps from the suburban counties are pretty much all the way in, I believe, unless I'm missing something. So there's that. 10% of the vote is in. Donald Trump with a 34-point lead that's about to expand, although that dump did not expand it, as more counties like Dauphin reported their early votes. But still, Dauphin's a liberal county. A lot of establishment Republicans there in Harrisburg, the capital. He still got 62% of the mail-in vote. So let's see. We got more super chats. Royal Doyle says also, I can't wait for the general election. I'm going to order pizza and watch your live stream. I hope you'll stream. Oh, I'm going to stream the whole thing. This is huge. I mean, this is definitely the biggest, most consequential election of our lifetimes. And I encourage people, they need to get out and vote, but also try to, encourage other people to do so that aren't registered. Get them registered. Like, this is crucial. People that are wishy-washy on Trump that get them voting. Get them voting. Just do it. Let's see. Johnny Heartdog says, if Trump does not correct 80, we're going to be hearing it day in and day out on the media about how Trump is in trouble. I mean, yeah, go look at the 2016 primaries after Trump dropped out, or after everyone dropped out. Go look at those. We could look at these because this is probably the biggest indicator that might not mean much. Like, yeah, Trump's technically he's a quasi-incumbent. He's always been. But first of all, people are just going to be less likely to vote in these things anyways, just because it's pretty much over. But looking at the states after Indiana, when Trump won 53-36, everybody else dropped out. Here's what you saw. He got 61% in Nebraska, 77% in West Virginia, 64% in Oregon, 75% in Washington, 74% in California, which is a closed primary, 74% in Montana, 80% in New Jersey. That was the big one. I think that might have been a closed primary as well. And Chris Christie, he gave him the endorsement as governor. New Mexico, he got 70, 71 if you round up. South Dakota, he got 67. So he only got above 75, I think, in three primaries, one being West Virginia. So is it like the end of the world if he's not getting 90 or even 80? Like, I'm not saying that it's a good sign if he gets below 80, because I don't think it's a good sign. But I'm not saying that the election is over, because how many lower propensity voters exist in this race that are going to be voting for Trump that can't even vote in a primary because they're not registered? I mean, a lot of people. So we'll see as the results pour in how they shake out. Let's see. We have more super chats. Mike Casmo 2 says, let's address the elephant in the room. Who is Trump's best VP pick? Well, I honestly don't know that question. I think we're going to have to see the final short list, which we're far off from getting. I don't think it's somebody that's being talked about right now. I've heard certain things from some people, but I don't know who his best pick would be. It really depends what he's trying to do. He doesn't need to pick he's not going to pick somebody who's too similar to him. People want that. Some people might, but he's not going to. But people will have to live with it because you don't vote for the vice president. If Donald Trump picks somebody who's too similar to him, it could potentially hurt him. Because it is true, you need to add something to the coalition. Maybe he'll pick a safe pick that doesn't add much but doesn't hurt. But you can't pick somebody who's too much of a wild card that could, derail the ticket, because you don't want that. Deborah Young says, I want to have the great feeling of satisfaction I had in 2016 when Trump defeated hilarious Clinton. That was so awesome. Thank you for the work you do for us. Well, thank you for the super chat. And get involved if you can. I say that to everybody in chat, not just the super chatter. We need as many people out there as possible that can be volunteering, voting, because they say if Trump doesn't have a ground game, well, why can't we just be our own ground game? We need people volunteering, signing up, doing that sort of thing, making calls, and Donald Trump's margin just increased substantially. I don't know where those votes came in from, but his margin, I don't know if it was Chester County, but I don't know what county it was, but his margin went up from 67 to 68.4. As more votes poured in. I think it might have been Luzerne County that did it. Lackawanna, Scranton, he's at 82. He's at 82 in Scranton. Biden, ironically, doing worse in Scranton than he's doing statewide. That's something. That really is something. He's obviously going to run it up among Democrats in the suburbs who are utterly delusional people. But again, you can't underestimate them. We don't want them to be our downfall. Let's see. We have more super chats. Eric Jenkins says, after this Trump term, how do you feel about a three-party system in the legislative branch? It's just not going to work. We're a two-party system. It's our government set up. Some people, I feel like, over-hate on that. They don't like the two-party system. But when, it's possible is for the parties to change. And I feel like Trump has definitely reoriented at least a good half of the party in the right direction. People always talk about, Republicans caved in the House in aid. A lot of them did, but half of Republicans did not vote for that package. And half of Republicans, even almost in the Senate, I think 19, voted against it. So it's not like we're not making gains. It's not like we're not improving. It just feels like we're not there yet, but it's not going to be an all or nothing. It's definitely going to take time for it to happen. The commander says at worst, if Trump loses Arizona and Pennsylvania, he could win with Georgia, Nevada, and Michigan for 272. Not ideal, but it's doable. I talked about that. David Mendez TV says Biden getting 100,000 votes for every 10% were effed. Well, are we really effed because of that? I mean, Democrats vote by mail. You're going to have, a million Democrats in total that are probably going to vote in this primary. Just the way it works. Republicans as a whole, by that same logic, they might end up with more despite having less Republicans in Pennsylvania as there are Democrats in Pennsylvania. So we'll see when the results finish pouring in. Trump has definitely gained a lot. He started off in the, around 60% of the vote, and he's gone up to 69. So it's going to continue as the election day votes get counted for sure. Because you do have a lot of Republicans who just it's like the uncommitted option. Registered Republicans doing that. Democrats not as likely because Biden's an incumbent president. Dean Phillips is a nobody compared to Haley, and he's kind of a meme himself. Shout out to Bobby Walter, says bounties on illegals. Well, they won't let people enforce the law either. That's the thing. They're not going to, if you're talking about, obviously deporting them is basically what you mean, I assume. You're not going to be able to go out there and have citizen deportations. You should possibly. We need people if you try to turn people over, they just don't even, in many cases, do anything about it. That's the problem. They don't do anything about it. They want this. They want the permanent, they want the invasion permanent. That whole bipartisan border scam or whatever that Biden blames Trump for causing the crisis, which is the most ridiculous possible thing you could even imagine. If you actually read through it, it didn't end catch and release. It just redirected that to these alternative detentions, which is basically roundabout catch and release. Also, bipartisan is not when you have 4 Republicans sign on to it. 4 biggest rhinos in the entire Senate. James Lankford, Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski. I don't even know if it would have had the votes to pass Trump or not. Just like H.R. 2. H.R. 2 is the real border bill. They sat on it. They didn't do anything to do it. They wanted to pass this garbage that would have not even done anything until like 6 million illegal aliens enter the country during a presidential term. And even then it does nothing. Let's see. Mike Casmo 2 says, is it me or did Mike Johnson seriously flip once he got briefed by the intel community? It's possible. He's a letdown. Now, if he apologized to Biden for rolling his eyes during the State of the Union, then that means there's some serious compromisation going on, because he did it and it was what it was. But he's apologizing that people are memeing the fact that he's going out there and I guess you would just say, just like ignoring Biden, like he's apologizing to Biden because he knows that Biden is full of shit. He's going to apologize. That's bitch-made behavior. Sorry, it's true. But yes, so far in Scranton, Trump is at 84% in Scranton. Biden is underrunning his statewide percentage in Scranton so far. I don't know if that holds up, but that's, Scranton Joe, right? Scranton Joe. But 70-30, it's going to go up. It's going to go up. We're 13% in. A lot of this is early vote. It's going to go up. I told people, don't panic. It's going to go up. Calm down. We'll see what happens. And right now, it's likely he's going to increase. He's 70. He got 70. He's at 70. No more of he didn't hit 70. Now it's going to be he didn't hit 80. We'll see if he hits 80. But yeah, he's not going to hit 90. I never thought he was going to hit 90. Even in 2020, as an incumbent president, he got 93.2, barely hitting 90. Okay, so now he's at 70.1. So more votes are pouring in. I wish I could see which counties are all the way in. Okay, wait, we can do this. Oh, there we go. All right, counties that are mostly in, Trump's in 80 in all of them. That's good news for Trump. Yeah, and all the counties that are above 22% in, he's at or above 80% in every single one of those counties. So there you go. Let's see. Jarrett Page says foreign aid's 1% of spending. Social Security is 22%. Yeah, it is a small percentage. It's not 1%. It's, from what I've heard, it's 2 to 3%. It's more now than it was back then. But I will say that, yeah, I mean, Social Security, that is something that we need to revisit. I'm not saying privatize fully. I'm not saying get rid of it. But it's something that, yeah, we have a ridiculous amount of waste, and that needs to be cut. The waste, not people getting their checks, but the waste, because that's doing a disservice to everybody, bankrupting the country. Foreign aid does matter. I mean, listen, we don't need to be sending a ridiculous amount of money to these other countries when we have a border crisis of our own. Ukraine, we don't need to be giving Ukraine any money. Europe should be, if it's really that big of a, international thing, Europe's right next to it. America's giving the same amount that all the European countries combined, which have a higher population, are giving. Trump is right about that. I think I'll say I disagree with Trump in the fact that he's like, oh, we could just loan it. I would not be that naive. I don't think the base agrees with Trump on that either. But I get he's just posturing, saying it, whatever. But we have nothing out of Lehigh County. Some people probably are going to correct me on that. I think it might be Leh, but I don't know how to pronounce it. But, yeah, I mean, he's going to definitely run up the score as more votes come in, which is a really good thing. We have more super chats. Jaeger says Johnston. It's Johnson is campaigning for Gonzalez. Yeah, I saw that. I covered that in the last show. It's ridiculous. He's campaigning for somebody who's the biggest rhino in the House. That's what he's trying to do. Okay, more votes came in. More presumably early votes. Presumably, I don't know what county they came in from. But, I don't know, maybe it was center. We'll see. Ben says if Trump wins in November, a good prison for Letitia James is Guantanamo Bay. True. Johnny Hartdog says, when did Mike Pence change his last name to Johnson? That's a good question. But again, Mike Johnson, when he was in the House, he had a pretty good record. That's why I was happy when he became Speaker. But he just sold out completely. And that's maybe they knew he was going to do it. Maybe that's why they allowed him to become Speaker. There are all these questions that are, needing to be answered. It's true, he can't do much. I know that he can't do much with the majority he has. I get that he wants to keep the government open. But past that point, you don't need to virtue signal to these people at every single possible opportunity. Sid X Piano Edit says Trump running mate. Like I said, I don't know who it's going to be. People are going to argue about that until the end of time. We're going to find out who he picks. Obviously, I'm not trying to give a cop-out answer as I, pour more water here. But still, I think it's important to note that he just is going to pick somebody that he feels like can expand his coalition. He's not going to double down. People talk about Vivek. He's not going to pick somebody like that. I'm telling people right now, I don't even think he's still on the short list, but he's not going to pick somebody who's like a backup to him. That person might win the 2028 nomination, but I don't think Trump's going to pick somebody who's going to be seen as that clear 2028 frontrunner. I mean, even Pence in 2024, he was never seen as the clear frontrunner, even if he led some polls in the post-Trump, arena. Even DeSantis was starting to gain a little bit back then, but he's kind of, just flamed out at the national level as I anticipated that he would. So we'll see. But Mike Pence in 2020, that was disastrous. Okay, Trump at 71.1. More votes pouring in for Donald Trump. He's at 72% in Allegheny County. He's running up the score. He's painting the map darker red. You know, we're back, kind of. I don't know how high he's going to go, but he was in the low 60s. Now he's in the he's going to get in the mid 70s. Will he get to 80? That's an important question because you have a lot of vote across the state that has not been counted that's going to be heavily favoring Donald Trump, probably 90 to 10 or so. And there's still 84% of the vote remaining. At Chester County, that was the dump that benefited Nikki Haley. But that's all in. These counties around the collar counties, they're all in the early vote. Now, Lehigh County, that's not quite in, but more votes came in. I think Carbon County, Trump gained even more. He's at 72.2. Bobby Walters says, whether you wisely put this in a hookers and blow fund or waste it senselessly on food or channel costs, it's yours. Well, probably the latter, but thank you for the 50. That's a big-time super chat. Thank you, Bobby Walter, for the 50. Porter Todd for 20 says, will the Pennsylvania primaries determine the general election? Not a whole lot. Not really. I mean, some people, we'll never hear the end of it when Trump probably gets less votes than Biden, but it doesn't matter because Pennsylvania has more registered Democrats. And in a primary that doesn't matter, the side that votes by mail is going to be the side that has the biggest leg up on the other side. I mean, you could look at 2020 even. Biden, and again, you can go look at this. Biden actually, he got 78%, but all these Bernie bros were going to vote for Biden anyways. I don't know if they're still because of the whole Gaza situation, but you're looking at this. Biden at 914,000 votes. Even if he bests that, it's still lower than the total Democrat turnout. You can go look at the Republican turnout that we saw here. Trump got 934, but he also got a higher share of the party. So we'll see what happens on that front. Democrat turnout, despite the mail-in system, is pretty much dropping off. And Bernie Sanders dropped out of the race too at that point. It's not like he was, campaigning and competing for the state. Let's see. LinRX52 with the member chat says you had it right the first time, Lehigh County. Yeah, it should be Lehigh County. Should be. Bobby Walter says Vince McMahon for Veep. Anything less than 80% I call shenanigans. It's a primary. I don't think they care that much, honestly. Merck IWNL says if Trump had already announced AB as his VP, Allegheny would have 0 Haley votes. True. Johnny Heartdog says let's quit talking about the VP. We'll know when we know. It's something a lot of people will ask, but it's also something that I really just feel like is not worth getting angry about or speculating too much. He's already at 73. That's going to go up. That's going to go up. That's a good sign. He's probably going to get in the 80s. We're going to hear, oh, it's bad that he got 80. If he gets like 85%, I'm not saying he's going to get that, but if he gets 85, we'll hear it's a bad night for Trump. 15% of Republicans voted against Trump. It's like a lot of registered Republicans in like Delaware County have been voting Democrat, or the last time some of these people voted Republican in the state probably was for Pat Toomey in 2016. I'm serious. Like, let's be real. John Waffle says Lehigh County will decide the election. Possibly. Mike Casmo 2 says, come on, we're just drawing up our Christmas wish list. I mean, I'll take super chats on it. If people want to ask me what I think about certain people, I think that would be more beneficial than to sit there and say, who do you think the VP is going to be? If we're going to be honest. Because then we could have a dialogue about the choices and we can give pros and cons and things like that. The Commander says if Palestine, Ukraine, or Biden falls before the election, he's so screwed. I honestly don't know how Biden would manage a debate without an aneurysm. I think he'd be a far worse debater than he was in 2020, where he was already pretty weak. Trump's mistake in the first debate, which again, for an incumbent president, he actually did fairly well, because incumbent presidents usually don't do too well in the first debate. But you look at that, it's like, his mistake in the first debate was just not letting Biden trip over himself. The second debate, he let Biden trip over himself, and he dog-walked his ass, so much so to the point where Biden had to come out and do damage control. The better performance for Trump doesn't mean he's not dangerous. It's like, so you're admitting you lose the debate, because if you didn't lose the debate, you wouldn't be saying that. Now, some people might say too little, too late. That's fine, but still. Seeking finding for $20 says Judas Johnson, the mini-me of Kevin McCarthy, will lose the House majority for the Republicans. Betrayal is never forgiven or forgotten. He doesn't know it yet, but his political career is over. The guy's a pathological liar. I agree with a lot of that. The one thing that I disagree with is that he's going to single-handedly lose the House, because people don't vote for the speaker in many cases. They vote for the individual congressman. And when you look at that, it's like people are going to vote for Trump. They're going to vote straight ticket red. Some people might not because they're upset. I just feel like it's not a significant number because a lot of those people are in safe red states anyways. That's why the primaries are so important. I mean, you look at this here. Let's check the primary. Seems like Dave Sunday's running away with this thing. I mean, some of these counties are going for Craig Williams, but yeah, Dave Sunday's got that pretty much. I'm not fully ready to project, but I mean, it's close enough. And then you go down to the other races. Let's see. The House. Here we go. This is the only competitive race. Ryan McKenzie with the lead of 7% with 23% reporting. That's a key seat. That seat could end up flipping this November, depending on how things go. But we'll see. And let me see if there's any other districts that are somewhat competitive here. I think that the 17th, that one, I think it's the same guy that ran last time. He got the nomination. Looking at this, the other, what other Democrats? That's Susan Wild's seat. Cartwright, that's the other one. Robert Breshnahan is the nominee. He's uncontested, so Bognet's not going to go for that again. We'll see. John Waffle H2P says, do you think Pennsylvania could ever get a Vance or Rust Belt type senator? Yeah, I think it's possible. We don't have anybody on the bench is the problem. Like Dr. Oz ran, and he was somebody with a socially liberal past. I supported him. I did what I could to get people to vote for him because we needed the Senate back. But what exactly did voters see? They saw somebody who carpetbagged, and a lot of voters voted before the debate to the point where it didn't matter. You know, Fetterman, he looks like a Trump supporter. He dresses like a stereotypical Trump supporter in many ways. Some people might find that insulting, but I mean, it's clear the aesthetic he's going for, if we're going to be honest. And on top of that, he's somebody who, was running commercials that highlighted the fact, oh, my parents voted for Trump. I understand the concerns. And now Trump is almost to 75% of the vote. So 20% of the vote is in. He started off at 62, 63. He's gone up to 75%. And he's putting his foot on the gas. That margin's going to go up by a decent amount as well as the night goes on. Because Haley, a lot of her voters are pretty much already here. Like, who's a Republican that went out to the polls on election day and decided, I'm going to vote for Haley to own Blumph? Maybe some ancestral Democrat who was trying to vote for Biden, or ancestral Republican who was trying to vote for Biden, but they couldn't get a Democrat ballot because they're registered Republican. Like, maybe that would be somebody. Also, Dean Phillips is up to 5% as more votes come in, too. But you're seeing that Lackawanna, 85% in Scranton. They call him Scranton Don. Scranton Joe. No, it's Scranton Don. Luzerne County at 81. There you go. But that's going to go up, most likely. You would think. You would think it's going to go up. Even in like the Philly, like these, even if the margins come in some of these counties and they're not like 70%, they're not like 80% for Trump, they're still going to come in heavily for, even like Philadelphia. More votes came in out of Philadelphia city, and Trump's at 71%. So that's going to increase substantially. He only got mid to high 80s in Philadelphia County last time. So there's that. But Trump he's a 50-point lead, and that's going to go up as more results pour in across the state of Pennsylvania. He's already up 74.7. So counties are filling in. Votes will fill in more and more Republican as more votes get tallied. You're seeing in some of these counties, he's cracking 90% with 51% of the vote in Greene County. He's at 93%. That might be all election day vote, but still, Washington County, the first vote dumps were not favorable to Trump. He's now at 82%. So Haley basically cannibalized all of her support early on, and the vote dumps that have come in as of late are swinging heavily in favor of Donald Trump, and he's expanding his margin as the night goes on. LynRx52 says, I know you probably covered this, but do it again. What are we to make of Biden getting 3 times the primary votes as Trump so far? Well, they're counting mail-in votes first. I mean, look at this. 42% of the Democrat vote is in, and that's an estimate. You only have 21, so you have half the Republican votes that are in of the Democrat votes, so that's a big part of it. And also, Pennsylvania has more registered Democrats than registered Republicans, and the primaries are over, so you think the side that would vote by mail would be more likely to have the edge, but even then, the jury's still out on who or which side ends up with more votes, even if Biden gets more than Trump, which I did predict that he would. Kaminsky says, should we build more small houses instead of apartments? It'd be better to have a permanent residency, plus could reduce real estate prices generally. Like, yeah, I think so. I mean, you have all these apartments. It's like the in thing. They put all these like luxury apartments up and people move into them, but they're not building equity. They're not, building credit in many cases. I mean, maybe you could say the rent would impact it, but they don't have land. They don't actually have a permanent place of residency. It's like you own nothing. They say you own nothing and be happy. That's essentially the establishment left's agenda, the globalist agenda, one could say. That's what they want. They want people packed in the pods, eating the bugs. It's the meme. It's a meme, but it's true. I mean, by and large, that is what these people want. Okay, let's see. Someone said Biden's at 52% reporting. He's not at 52 quite yet. He's at 42%. So there's that. The Green Renegade says, how often does Feder woman make you go, hello, base department? Not really. I mean, has he moved right? He has moved right on some rhetorical things. A lot of it's performative, but it's funny that he, of all people, who we said is going to be like, he'd be like the second worst senator behind like Sanders in terms of how liberal he is. He's arguably my favorite remaining, you could say, or least unfavorite Democrat senator. I would say he's my favorite just because he's a meme. Rhetorically speaking, he can say sane things, but he's not our friend. His voting record is not, any different than any other Democrat, but he's the next Joe Manchin, basically. Like, I wouldn't say he's a fake moderate. If anything, he's like a fake progressive. Now he says, I denounce progressivism. It's funny. He gets his brain back and he starts to make sense more often, That's something. Also, we missed some super chats. Michigan Nationalist says, rather have Meyer in DFW or HEB here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Well, HEB just got to DFW. I'd much rather have Meyer. Meyer should definitely expand. I know they can't expand into certain places like the Cleveland area or Western Pennsylvania because I think that Giant Eagle's got a monopoly, whatever Giant Eagle is, and they don't really expand south. They should expand more. I mean, they expanded into Wisconsin probably about like 10, 11 years ago. There's a lot of work that they have to do if they want to make it nationally. Culver's was pretty much only in the Midwest, but that's expanded a lot. I don't know if Meyer really intends to expand or if they just want to remain a regional thing, but it'd be useful to have one. Okay, do we have any more super chats that we missed? I don't think so. Tyler T says, if New York gets a Republican governor in 26, is there any chance that upstate could sever itself from New York City? I think it's unlikely. Upstate is also not as conservative as you think. It's not. I mean, is it more Republican than New York City? Yeah, but New York City is moving right. Upstate kind of moved left in 2020. In 2022, it did move right, but not by enough to give Zeldin the victory. But Zeldin hit his target margins in New York City in most places. He just couldn't hit his target margins upstate. So I don't think Trump wins New York, but I do think that he very well could go out there and end up shocking a lot of people by keeping it within like 12 points. Absolutely. Modern Josephus says, I wish Mike Kelly would have been primaried successfully. The guy supported FISA and billions to Ukraine. Challenger didn't get enough signatures. Yeah, and also this is a new thing too. Back when you had the challengers, the whole like FISA thing wasn't on people's minds. The whole aid package wasn't on people's minds. So that's another thing to take into consideration as well. So 2,600 live viewers in chat. Like the stream. Let's get to 1,500 likes. Let's get to 1,500. We are almost there. Also, subscribe to the channel as well. If you are new, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. We are knocking on the door of 178,000 subscribers. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Let's see. Mike Casmo 2 says, no bugs eat steak and maybe shallots with a little white wine. I am not an enjoyer of white wine, but I can endorse the steak thing. So that's that. I mean, it is true. They do want to take away steak. They want people eating less red meat. They say it's for the environment somehow. It's people have been doing that for how long? How long have people been eating steak in this country? People have been eating meat since before, these ice ages and periods of global cooling and things like that. They want people to stop eating meat for the environment. It doesn't make sense. It's not something that is really going to benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit health. People need to be eating more protein, not less. That's how they get their nutrients. Not saying people need to go full carnivore diet, whatever, but do people need to be eating a lot more protein, red meat? In many cases, yes. I'd say the answer is yes. The whole food pyramid, it's all a scam. It's all bought and paid for. Jeremy G says defund all sports referees. I think a lot of people can get behind that. I think a lot of people can. My mouse stopped working for some reason. Not entirely sure why. I can use my computer mouse, but not my external mouse. So that's not entirely ideal. But we can still use this one. Okay, maybe we can. It is connecting. And now it works. It works now. Okay. The Iranian Putin, $10 for VP. Number 1, Rand Paul. Number 2, Ben Carson. A military background choice would be good. Okay, apparently the battery's low. That's where the sounds are coming from. Which we can mute the desktop audio as well. Military background choice would be good. Number 3, Tulsi Gabbard. Number 4, Doug McGregor. My personal out-of-the-box choice would be number 5, Jeffrey Sachs. I don't know anything about some of those people. I know very little about the last person you mentioned. I think Rand Paul, very libertarian, which again, if you have RFK Jr., if he's really hurting Trump and Trump goes with somebody like a Tulsi or like a Rand Paul, that might help him. But Rand Paul's not even endorsing Trump right now. He's retweeting RFK Jr., which is just a waste of time. But in terms of Ben Carson, I've heard from campaign people he's not going to want to pick Ben because Ben is too old and he wants somebody a little bit younger. So do with that information what you will. Maybe this person doesn't know what they're talking about. They might not, but they are prominent. They are well connected. Jason Christie says, is there even a tiny chance in hell Trump wins New York? No. Don't bet on it. And I don't think he really has a shot at New Jersey either, but going to New Jersey in May is not like a sign that your campaign doesn't know what it's doing. He did a rally in New Jersey in 2020. He has a property in New Jersey. It's much closer. There's a poll that has it within 10. Testing the waters. It is what it is. New York, he's going to be campaigning technically in New York a little bit, but that's because he has no choice. And I think he could gain in New York, but I don't think he can win New York because there's just not enough math for him. It's not like upstate votes like downstate Illinois. If upstate voted the way that downstate Illinois votes, I think Trump would have a fighting chance at New York this time just because he's doing very well in New York City in recent polls. He's polling at like 26%. Biden's only polling in the 50s. Yeah, if Trump gets 30 in New York City, that's huge. If he gets 35, it's even more huge. but I don't know if he's going to get there. I think that the main focus should be on Pennsylvania above all else. Volciferon says, Red Eagle, you're the best, dude. Well, thank you. Jason Christie said typo meant snowflakes chance, and yeah, there's no chance. I don't really think New York, Illinois, California, Washington, Oregon, those states don't need to really be contested because there's no shot. Now, Pennsylvania, yes, Michigan, Wisconsin, like those three are huge. I'd say Minnesota's a valid wild card just because Biden is really going to struggle there in the Twin Cities at energizing the progressive turnout or whatever over the whole conflict. But already, Trump is at 77%. He's almost to 78%. The election day votes in the area surrounding Philadelphia are not yet in. That's probably going to boost Trump, but by how much we don't really know. But I presume his numbers in the counties go up. But look at this, Allegheny County, 38% in. He's already at 76%. That's going to go up. That's going to go up. And Allegheny is not really a Trump-friendly county. You look at the primary last time, it gave him 90%, but that was 3 points below his statewide average. So do with that information what you will. Let's see. Jeremy G says, or defund the teachers. Bobby Walters is working a lot in Pennsylvania, spend time in Scranton, anything less than 80% shenanigans. Well, he's not going to get below 80 now. Carl and Don Hamilton says it's not about the environment, it's about control. Well, that's the whole narrative, is about control. The environment is the cope. It doesn't make sense to anybody that can just think for like 5 seconds. Shout out to Ursa Bruin for becoming a member. Michigan Nationalist says probability Herrera oust Gonzalez in Texas is 23rd. I don't know the percent. I hope it happens, but you got an incumbent that's spending a ridiculous amount of money. He's getting absolutely destroyed on social media, but Twitter's not real life, so that has to be taken into consideration. Merck IWNL says, real ones remember when Rep lived in Michigan, like the stream, if he should move back. Michigan needs Rep's vote. Well, I spend probably half my time there anyways, so do what you will with that information. Tom Sav says Biden has more votes than Trump in Pennsylvania. Does that mean Biden gets Pennsylvania? No, it does not. Like I said, this is a primary where you have more registered Democrats, and Biden has more votes in because more Democrat areas are reported and more mail-in votes have been reported because it's early. So Trump is at 30, not even to 30%. Biden's basically at 50%. So Biden having more votes would just make sense. It doesn't even take anything else into consideration. So do what you will with that information. Now, in terms of 2016's Pennsylvania primary, that was probably a little bit different, but you look at that. In the Democrat primary, Hillary Clinton got more votes than Trump. She didn't win the state of Pennsylvania. So I'm not entirely sure that it's a good indicator to use regardless. In fact, Democrats did get like 100,000 more votes than Republicans in total. And then you go to 2020, you look at the total count there. Democrats actually got 400,000 more votes than the Republicans. This time around, it's looking somewhat even. So there's a lot of factors that need to be taken into account and taken into consideration. But Trump is going to crack 80. He is probably going to get above that. We'll see. Depends on how the remainder of the votes come in a lot of these places. Lehigh County, the votes that came in, 71-29 Trump. So he's expanding. He's likely going to expand his lead in those places. Look at this, 78.3. Every second that goes by, he's adding to his total. He's almost 20% where we started the night in terms of above that margin. Chester County, he's now at 62. Bucks, Montgomery, he's all above 60. If he gets in the 70s in these counties, even the mid to high 70s, that's probably a good sign given every factor possible to analyze. Meanwhile, on the Democrat side, Biden, Dean Phillips cracking 20% in a lot of counties. That's proof of ancestral Democrats. That's where these voters are coming in from. And honestly, same thing kind of for the inverse. Now, some Republicans maybe have decided to vote for Haley in the primary because, I don't know, maybe they just see her on the ballot and they're like, I don't know if Trump can win. Doesn't mean they're not voting for Trump. But some of the Haley voters are not voting for Trump, but this is a closed primary. A lot of the Haley voters either A, are already basically not Republicans except for their name, or B, they're going to eventually vote for Trump. That's where the lion's share of those supporters really are coming from. So let's see. Ben for 10. So should Trump pick Gabbard? Would that put Hawaii on the table for Trump? I don't think it would make Hawaii be in play, but it would be funny if Trump won Hawaii out of nowhere. And if Hawaii was the state that was able to put him over the top, I mean, that would be the biggest just middle finger to the Democrats, who would probably be super excited about, oh, Biden's going to win. Oh, we can call Hawaii for Donald Trump. Oh, yep, can't really win without Hawaii. If Trump gets Nevada and Wisconsin and Georgia, if he gets Hawaii, he'd be getting there. But I don't think it's really all that feasible. It's more of a wish cast type of thing, even with Tulsi on the ticket. Maybe get in the 40s. Biden's Maui response was not really well received, but Hawaii is a very, very Democrat-friendly state. Now, Biden was his worst primary in a state to date, so that is true, and it was a closed primary as well. So, there's a lot of defectors. Now, it is true that there was very low turnout, but again, that's not really a good sign for Biden either. When you have like 1,000 votes in the state total. Republicans, I think, had higher turnout than that, come to think of it. But 34% uncommitted, that's embarrassing. That's a really big embarrassment. So, yeah, looking at some of these counties, Northampton, he's at 83%. I don't think any of these counties are really close to being done quite yet. But the ones that are all the way in, Elk County, Columbia County, he's at 89, 88. Lackawanna, okay, Carbon County's all the way in now, and he's at 90. Lackawanna's at 90%. He's at 86. So he's outperforming his statewide margin there so far. Every county that's 50% in or above has him above 80, 85, 83, 85% in every county. Some counties that, like Cumberland County, that's early. A lot of that's early vote, so he'll increase as more of that comes in. So yeah, I mean, looking at it, it's like the reason why Haley was doing so well is because you had a lot of people voting by mail, and those were the votes that were counted first. Now they're pretty much done counting them. Now Trump's the one going on offense. He's the one that's running up the score across the board. He's going to crack 80. I don't know what he's going to get past 80, but he's going to crack 80. So we'll see. We don't have any more super chats in. So make sure you guys like the stream down below. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Can we get to 2,000 likes? We have 1,800 likes just about. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Let's get there. So let's go back to the map. Okay, yeah, he's about to crack 80. 33% of the vote is in. We got a big vote dump in from somewhere. I'm not sure where it was. It might have been, I don't exactly know what county. One of these counties that's giving, maybe Luzerne. Now he's at 79.4. Oh, actually, I think it was Westmoreland because that was 8%. Now it's 30%, and Trump's at 84% in the primary vote. That's going to likely go up. So in the Pittsburgh suburbs, he's holding his own, mid to high 80s. Philadelphia suburbs, not quite yet, but there's not a lot of vote counted. And yep, Delaware County, more came in. Trump's lead went up from a 4-point lead to a 16-point lead. So you're seeing that right there. Mike Casmo, 2 for 5, says the salt must flow. Thank you for the super chats. Yeah, Pike County. This is like the New York media market up here too, which is important. Honestly, Trump should just be, if he can get some downtime, go to northeastern Pennsylvania. It's like an hour, 2-hour drive. You should do it. Mitchell Ryan says, do you think they'll remove Trump's Secret Service? I don't believe so. I mean, it was a bill that was proposed. It's probably not going to go anywhere. I don't think they're going to really bring it to the floor. As awful as Mike Johnson's been on some things, I think the whole, early endorsement of Trump and willingness to, I guess you would say, appear with him in the media is kind of something that a lot of other people in the position would not necessarily do. Dementia Joe for 20 says, what's good, Rep? Was this primary open? No, it was not. And a lot of the votes that were counted up to this point have been early and mail-in that would have leaned towards Haley. So Trump's gaining. He's going to get in the mid-80s. I guarantee you some people on Twitter probably freaked out about this, as they usually do, because they're not very intelligent and can't wait until all the votes get counted. But what can I say? He's going to get 80. He's going to get 80, probably in the mid-80s. I don't know. It depends how the Election Day votes split in the Philly suburbs, which is something. But what's also good to note is that we've been here for an hour and a half in the state of Pennsylvania. Already, we've tabulated probably around 40% of the votes. So you want to talk about November, you want to talk about counting the ballots quickly. It's a much better sign that we're doing this faster than we were in years past. I will say that. So Trump gained even more. He's almost to 80. We don't have anything out of Clearfield, Fulton, or McKean counties, but if you want to see how red these counties are, 72-26. You have Fulton County. That's 86 to 13. That is insane. Those are dictator margins, but he needs that everywhere in these rural counties. He needs to be running up the score like that. I don't really see why he can't be doing it, but I don't know. You got to reach these people, I guess. Dementia Joe for 20. Oh, we already did that one. Aztec Warrior for 10 says, keep up the great work, Red Eagle. I've been a fan since 2020. Aztec. Well, we've had a lot of people that have been here for a very long time, so the early backers are very appreciated, but also the new arrivals are as well. I mean, we've had how many people this year alone subscribe? We've gone from 153, and we've basically turned the ship around, and we've gotten it to 177. But like and subscribe so we can get to 178,000. Got to keep it growing. Expand the coalition. We got an important election. We got to get people informed. Almost to 2,000 likes. We're 43 away. We have 1,000 people in chat that haven't liked it yet. Hit that like button. We're going to get there to 2,000. Let's see. Oh, there he goes. 80%. He got it. 80%. I don't know where the votes came in from, but he hit 80. He's probably going to hit 80 in Pittsburgh as well. Philadelphia, he's going to hit 80 in Philly as well, which is also huge. Philadelphia, that's where the election, I really feel like Trump is going to make a decent amount of gains. If he gets the margins that Republicans got in the mayoral election, he already takes the state. So watch Philadelphia City, watch how that goes, watch northeastern Pennsylvania. So long as he just holds his margin west of the line, which he did in 2020, and he makes those improvements, just 2% in the remainder of the counties, that's enough for him to win. And turnout dropping might do it in and of itself, but you got to make sure that Republican turnout isn't the one that's dropping, or Trump turnout. It's Biden turnout that needs to plummet. The Wanderer says, I have many friends in Pennsylvania who work late, like one who is a trucker and lives in Northeast Pennsylvania. All Trump in November just did not go out today. I mean, a lot of people didn't. I didn't vote in the primary, which some people can probably rake me over the coals for, but it's not like I was feasibly able to. And it's not like Trump wasn't able to go out there and win by the ridiculous margin he ended up winning by anyways. Yeah, it's kind of like a stealth thing. You have people that sit these things out. But I mean, even then, people that are voting heavily for Trump. So it's not like you have this movement, the Haley movement, that's still working. I mean, that's going to go down. Trump's already at 80. And what did he get in Wisconsin? I mean, Wisconsin was an open primary for sure. But you look at Wisconsin and the margin Trump got in Wisconsin, he didn't even hit 80. He hit 79.2. So he's already doing better in Pennsylvania than Wisconsin. And that was a good night for Republicans. And that was the beginning of the month. So he's probably going to do even better as more votes are counted. Like York County, he's going to get a lot more than 64% in York. Dauphin, okay, so Cumberland came in, Trump's gained. Dauphin's he's going to gain in Dauphin as well. He's going to gain in all these counties. The percentages, the end percentages in the Philly suburbs, that's another question mark as to how much does he clear 80% by. But I mean, in all these other counties, he's in the high 80s. High 80s in a lot of these places. And the totals are probably going to increase as well. Look at that. I think that's early vote. Trump 96-4 in Cameron County. That is big right there. Those numbers are huge. He's at the high 80s. He's going to go up when all the votes are counted too. In a lot of those counties, he's going to be in the 90s. And you want to look at the map here. He was in the mid 90s. So obviously he's not an incumbent president. He's not going to get 93%. But if he gets 84, 85, I'd say it's a good night for him. I would. The Wanderer says, I do not expect Trump to have more votes in Erie tonight. I just hope he's doing better in Erie County, urban working class areas and rurals. What do you mean by that exactly? Because he's at 73. He's going to probably run up the score in the remainder of the vote in Erie County. He's already gained. Then we have Sussy Boy for $2. I'm not going to read that super chat because he's just trolling, but we will take the $2. So thank you for that. But 38% of the vote is in. Let's go to the Democrat primary. 54% of the vote is in. So Biden getting close to 1 million when it's all said and done, probably. Trump getting close to, I think, like the 900,000 range is probably more of a reasonable expectation, but that's higher than I thought it would be. That's actually higher than I thought it would be. Somebody asked if I'm staying the whole night streaming. No, I'm not. I mean, we'll keep going. I'm not going to stop. I don't have a reason to. As long as people in chat are making things interesting and we keep getting super chats and have 2,700 people, I think that's the highest we probably had all night in chat, I have no reason to stop. Logan Agee for 10 says, why does DeSantis get trashed so much? I get he ran against Trump in the primary, but his campaign's over. He endorsed Trump. He's a conservative governor. What did he do to deserve all the hate? I don't think the hate really has to do much with his governorship. I think that's kind of an argument I've heard people use. And I think it comes from the fact that he is just not fit for the national level. That's where it came from. It was all friendly with Trump. Then he decides to run for office knowing he probably was going to get his ass kicked and then got his ass kicked. So, I'm glad he's fundraising for Trump. Obviously, we need to be united. But a lot of it is just the people that he surrounded himself with and his annoying surrogates, many of whom are actively rooting for Donald Trump to fail. I'm not saying they're representative of all DeSantis supporters in the primary, because a lot of them have already come home. But you look at some of these people, on social media, his campaign, they just were awful. And they ran like they were resist libs. It was always about how bad Trump was, whitewashing, gaslighting, etc. And that's part of the reason why I feel like they turned off a lot of people. Now, social media is not real life, but I feel like in the real world, people didn't necessarily hate DeSantis. But they preferred Trump. And I feel like a lot of people said that Trump got the short end of the stick in 2020. He deserves a second term under normal circumstances. And that's why I think Trump was able to do so well in the primary. And he did. he ran up the score. He won big. Even before Haley dropped out, he was getting in the high 70s in even a lot of these open primaries like Texas. So, yeah, Donald Trump, he's in a good position. He is. Let's see. Sussy Boy says, never trolling, love your videos. Well, thank you for that. The Wanderer says, in general, I hope his primary numbers there are very good, better than expectations, and Biden numbers are down. Hopefully. I mean, how do you define expectations? It's the real question, because I said Trump probably gets in the mid-80s, and he's exactly doing that tonight. He might get even higher than that. So I'm not saying he's underperforming. And just because he gets less votes than Biden doesn't mean much, because there's more registered Democrats in Pennsylvania than there are registered Republicans. So, and that number's declining in every county, which is a good sign for Trump, even in the collar counties. It's not like these are ancestral Democrats just changing their registration, because in the collar counties, it was the opposite in 2020. But now every county's, even, Center County, 71 for Trump so far. Yeah, there was no defection for Dean Phillips. I didn't anticipate that there would be. You're seeing that in a lot of these other counties where you likely do have a lot of ancestral Democrats. These people probably all vote for Trump. That's another thing people need to understand. All the Dean Phillips voters are voting for Trump. Most of them, I will say. And he's going to get like 7, possibly even higher than that percentage points when it's all said and done in the primary. Even if he stays at 6, that's 30,000 votes you could throw in Trump's column, because those are ancestral Democrats. They voted Democrat before Trump. They don't like Biden. So it's something that we need to take into consideration. So that kind of answers the next question from Anti-Piracy League, saying Biden getting 10K more votes total is not a concern. It's not a concern if that's the true at the end of the day. Now, in terms of the total vote share right now, Biden is doing better because of the fact that the votes that have been counted are early votes, mail-in votes in blue areas. That's why Haley is doing as well as she's doing. I doubt she stays at 19%. I doubt she stays at 19. She was in the 30s to start the night. We've counted 41%. Yeah, she's going down. Even that vote dump, she goes down. So I'm not worried about it at all. You know, if Trump was in the 90s, it would be probably better, because it's like, wow, you know, he's not an incumbent. He's still getting in the 90s. That's huge. That's like never happened before. But his performance is not bad. It's not, great. But this primary is over. I feel like a lot of people that were tuned in to the primary back in, March, they've kind of tuned out a little bit. Maybe that's why Trump in the polls is not leading by 3 or 4 points again. Maybe that means why when people tune into politics on the right, they answer polls more. Maybe that's why Trump might gain because of his trial. He's in the media's eye a lot more. I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, these counties, they need more votes to be counted so that they can get redder and redder. Allegheny, Trump is going to get 80% there. Greene County, half the votes in, 93%. Let's see. Johnny Heartdog says, if he stays at 80, is that still a good night? Yeah, it's a good night. It's not a bad night. It's not like a great night, but it's just like, it is what it is. If he gets 81, 82% in the primary, it just like, okay. He's basically getting far above his 2016 percentage. He's getting a little bit below his 2020 percentage when he was an incumbent president. But he's doing well enough, especially because a lot of people just didn't really care about this election either way. But Democrats, when they don't care, they get better turnout because of the fact that they're more likely to vote by mail. And that's important. I think the voter registration numbers in Pennsylvania, and now there's a big vote dump. I don't know where that was, but that is huge. Might have been Berks County. Trump at 81 now. So Young Rum and Coke says top 3 Trump VP picks. I don't know. I really don't know who he's going to choose. I don't know. You could make the case for a lot of people. It depends what he's trying to do. What does he want to do with his ticket? What he wants to do is going to be different than what some of the base wants him to do. Because you don't really see people in politics double down and select, I'm going to select somebody who's just like Trump, but will carry the torch. I don't think the VP pick is going to be the person to carry the torch. Maybe if he picks Vance, they could be. But I don't know if he's going with Vance. So we'll see. Although I did hear Vance is the current front runner, but take it as you will. The sources are all over the place. Even though these are high-profile people that are saying these things, they're still all over the place. Maybe it will be Lee Zeldin. Maybe he really does want to do better in New York. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but could he do better in New York? Could he get it under 10 and save his House majority so he can get to work? Yeah, it's possible. Sussy Boy says, will Nimrata endorse Trump? I say yes, probably. I mean, unless she really wants to grift on the left, she's more than welcome to do that. But it is what it is. So long as she's not in the ticket, I don't care. She wants to speak at the DNC for Biden. I don't think she will. But it just proves that she's a complete and total fraud. It's always been. I was one of the first people to say it. Way back when. Let's see. Fox Mulder says, if Trump loses the November election, we'll know the Democrats redacted. Will civil war be on the horizon? I don't think civil war will be on the horizon, for one. For two, it's possible that that's why, but we can't take this for granted. I mean, people need to get out and vote, period. If we leave stuff on the table in this climate, at that point, can you really blame anybody except for yourself? That's another question. So we need to go out there and win. We need to put our heads down and keep fighting regardless of whatever may come at the end of the day. You see these new security measures, election laws changed in some cases back to where they were before. I'm not the most worried person in the world about what's to come, but it is true that we do need to be careful. But also you get a lot of misinformation spreading about that type of stuff because people, it's an industry. They get clicks for it. Like the whole Texas Social Security registration thing, that's completely fake. It's completely fake. There's no million voters registering every week in Texas. It's not even feasible. There's not even that many illegals that are poor. Like even if you want to be going down that road, there's just not enough math for it. So it could be a concern here and there, but that whole thing is not true. So I tell people when they see this information, analyze it and scrutinize it, because sometimes it's demoralization and it's put out there on purpose to make people feel as if they shouldn't show up and vote. So then they could basically skew the election without even moving a finger. And they'd rather do it that way because they're lazy. Base Cat says, why so many shitlibs betting on Predicted? Because that's who bets on politics. Their comment sections have always been super far left. It's insane. So the fact that they even think the election's close is a good sign for Republicans. They're also definitely, you look at 2022, a lot of political bettors are just like, the polls are probably underestimating Biden this time. No evidence of it, by the way. Maybe they are a little bit here and there, but still. Let's see. Dementia Joe says, what got you into politics? Well, I was just interested in the field all the way back in like 2015, 2016. It's kind of when it started. I think the whole Trump movement, Trump definitely with the whole debates and everything like that. I was curious about the 2016 election back in like 2015, 2016, and that's kind of when I started to kind of get into it as well. Just seeing how the left operated, how the media operated, all the lies and deception, and how they've kind of gone out there and brainwashed the entire, or good portions of this entire generation. That's kind of what opened my eyes to a lot of the stuff. Yeah, Bucks County now is at Trump he's at over 70. So we have a lot of votes left to be counted, but the votes that are coming in the suburbs, at least the ones that we've seen, probably are over 80-20 Trump on election day, which is good news for Trump. Colts for Super Bowl 59 says these vote dumps are going Trump's favor. Yeah, and that's a good thing, because now you have all the election day or the early votes. All the early votes are in for the most part, it seems. Maybe not in some of these counties, but most places are reporting their early or their mail-in votes in all in one dump, which is also why Biden has a higher share of the vote compared to the Republicans. It's lagging behind, but you see that margin. It was like 25-point differential. Now it's 14, just because election day votes are the ones that are being counted more so now. So yeah, it's changed since 2016 or since 2020. It's not as bad as it was for Republicans. There's more faith in the system. It doesn't mean that there's not serious concerns, because there are serious concerns, and those aren't going away. But you can't let that deter people from voting. Otherwise, they're winning via demoralization. You don't want that to happen. They should have moved the needle. 60, 70, 80. It should have been 80 or 70, 80, 90. But what can you do? Now he's at 81.3. We still have over half the votes to be counted. You know, Trump's going to get in the mid to high 80s, possibly. We'll see. Depends on what's left. Sussy Boy says, can you do a video about the swing state law changes? I could. It's possible. I'm sure that I could do a video like how will states report their votes. That could do well in like September, October. But as of right now, I don't really see a reason to really make that video, because I got a lot of other videos on the short list, and sure we're going to get a lot of suggestions as well. But there's a lot of content to be made, a lot of narratives to take head on and dismantle as well, because this election is crucial. We need to analyze it, but we also need to win it. And right now Trump leads by 63 percentage points, so he's expanding his totals. And in the counties that are all the way in, looking at this on the Republican side, he's at or around 90% in a lot of them. Some he's in the mid to high 80s. But there's no county where he's below 80% that's 70% of the way in. Even Allegheny County, 49%, and he went from like 63 to 78. So that's that. Doug says, are you concerned about the Biden margin? I'm not concerned about the Biden margin, because Dean Phillips is a joke. It's a closed primary, and basically every closed primary Biden is doing, I'd say, fairly well, because a lot of younger voters are not registering with a party, period. They're independents in Pennsylvania. You know, Michigan's an open primary. Minnesota's an open primary. But Biden getting 93, 94% of the vote, is that concerning? No, it's really not. I mean, you could look back at the 2020 election primary, go back to that. You know, Tulsi Gabbard getting 3.2%. That's your ancestral Democrats right there. That's where, you know, a lot of the Dean Phillips vote. If they voted in 2020, they probably voted for Gabbard, and then they voted for Trump. And you're seeing the same thing here tonight with the Dean Phillips voters, because those are ancestral Democrats that are turning out. The rest of them, yeah, they're just going to vote for Biden regardless. There's no real uncommitted option, so that whole movement's not working. And like I said, younger voters are less likely to register with a party, even if they usually vote Democrat. So Trump's margin keeps going up. More votes keep coming in. We saw the McKean County finally reported some votes. Trump's at 87% in McKean County. And he climbs up in Erie. He's going to climb up even more, most likely, in a lot of these places as more votes get tabulated. Yeah, he might lag behind in the Philly suburbs a bit. That's typical. That was the case in 2020. I mean, you could go back to the 2020 Trump results for the Republicans. Actually, that's not the right one. Here we go. But you can go back here, and you could look in some of these counties. Chester County, 14%. voted against Trump. Montgomery County, 11% voted against Trump. Bucks County was like 9%. Philadelphia City, it was 12%. Delaware was like 14%. Allegheny County, on the other hand, that was more like 90%, or so it was like 10%. So he underperformed statewide a bit, but not by enough. So that's kind of what it comes down to here. He just keeps running up the score. 50% of the vote is in. Republicans, when it's all said and done, they're, as of now, projecting them to get over 1 million votes. And now he's at 82. So votes just keep pouring in and pouring in. And that is a Philadelphia County. He's now at 80% in Philadelphia. So that's huge. Oh, let's see. Johnny Hartog says what you were expecting at the beginning of the night. Yeah, I said low to mid 80s. Low to mid 80s is what I said. He possibly gets higher than like 83, so we'll use 83 as a benchmark. That's where I thought he would end up. He got 93% in 2020. 83% right now, that's not bad for not being an incumbent president, even if your opponents have dropped out. I mean, Biden got 79% in 2020's primary. Bernie Sanders already dropped out, but Biden still got a good share of the, Bernie Sanders still got a good share of the vote. So Trump to get like 85, 86, if that's where he's at the end of the night, you could say it's a good night because he didn't underperform a ridiculous amount in a closed primary. He's not like really bleeding Republican support. He's not. And a lot of these Haley voters are more likely to vote for Trump than those in like New Hampshire because these are registered Republicans. Some of them might not because, yeah, you have registered ancestral Republicans. That's a thing. But at the end of the day, you have the Dean Phillips voters too on the Democrat side. So those kind of cancel out a bit. LinRx52 for 10 says, what states is RFK Jr. in America? Has he been through any Well, he's not going to need to be on a primary ballot because he is already going to make the general election. That's what he's running for. He's an independent. And so far, you could look at the ballot access map. We could pull this up. And it turns out he is on the ballot in Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Nebraska, Iowa, Michigan, North Carolina, and New Hampshire, and Hawaii. Then there's a lot of states he's in progress so far to get on the ballot. He probably gets on the ballot. And if he does really sign on to that one minor party, Natural Law or whatever, which is a left-wing third party, by the way, then he's going to pick up a lot of different states as well. But some states he's not applying yet because the window's not open. So it's kind of pointless to speculate. But we'll see. We just need to make sure Republicans don't vote for him. He takes votes away from Biden. He takes votes from Biden. We need to make sure he does. Like, you look at Wikipedia's page about his issues for the campaign, like, you see how left-wing Wikipedia is operating. They're whitewashing it. They're basically saying he's, like, right-wing, and he's not. I mean, even on his own page, he's not that right-wing. Like, they'll quote him where he said, like, there should be some limits on late-term abortion to him accepting a 15-week ban. Then he comes out and says, no, I oppose any bans on abortion. It should be protected until basically the third trimester, moment of birth. That's not conservative. That's not conservative at all as far as I'm concerned. So, let's see. Spence Callis says Trump needs to pick the VP to campaign for him. I mean, maybe you could say that would be something like, yeah, he should probably be deploying his surrogates to the swing states while he's on trial because then you're able to ramp up enthusiasm. Then you're in the media more. You don't have to be there, but you're in the media still with the whole trial. But local media is different, and getting people out to do events is different. You could have somebody that's like a third-rate campaign surrogate do an event. They're probably going to get more people than Biden. Biden goes to Tampa. There's more protesters outside the building than people that were in the building. He could barely fill up an elementary school classroom. It's like, I don't think him being on the campaign trail really helps him. And also, it gives us so much, content Trump is like in the basement low key, but he's like the victim and he's still got the energy. And then Biden's out there and he's making a fool out of himself because he has to be out there. You can't hide in the basement when you're in this much trouble. And he knows it. You can't hide behind COVID. So you have to be out there facing the people. And he's just making a fool out of himself when he's doing it. And there's so many clips that come out of the whole ordeal that don't make him look good. The Sandwich Man says, tonight's story is that Pennsylvania is winnable, but it's razor thin. It was that way regardless. The primary elections, they can tell us a little bit, but they're not really the best indicators. So far, I'd say that Trump is not having a bad performance, one could say. I think he's having a decent performance. I don't think it's the best in the world. I don't think that it's lower than my expectations, though, so it's not like I'm moving the goalposts. But, yeah. So we add more water here. But he's up in the polls in Pennsylvania, and that's true. Joe Biden is basically been living there the past few weeks, except when he went to Florida. And it's like, you really think you can win Florida? Same people that get mad about Trump going to New Jersey are saying that Biden should go to Florida. The polls in New Jersey are actually closer than the polls in Florida. And also, New Jersey is probably more flippable than a state like New York, and it's like right next to Trump's trial, so of course, why not just go there? Now, you could make the same argument about Pennsylvania, and I agree with it, but more votes came in. Those might have been an early vote dump somewhere. I don't know where it was, but Trump slightly decreased, but he still is at 82.1. Just a little bit of a dead cat bounce for Haley. I think that was Butler County early vote. That hasn't come in quite yet, and there's a lot more left that has not come in as well. Apex Caliber says, what happened to the Biden surge? RFK Jr. Well, RFK Jr. isn't really surging. I think the polls that have him getting double digits are going to be very wrong. That's just how third-party candidates poll. People don't like both. They'll say, I'll park my support here. They usually come home or just stay home. There's no in between. Actually, there is an in between, but it's not very big. But yeah, he's doing a decent job tonight. I don't think he's doing a bad job at all. You know, he's going to get probably 84, 85%, one could say. Maybe if he even stays at 82, 83, it's not really all that big of a deal. But there's a lot of room that he's likely going to grow in some of these places. Hudson Dean says, did you see the Rogan Tucker show? If so, what do you think about it? Honestly, I don't really know what to think about. I didn't really see the show, but I've seen a couple clips. I think Tucker's actually wrong about some of what he said. The whole, I think it's a bad thing we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima or whatever. I don't necessarily think it is. That's war. I mean, you could say the war is bad. You could say we got to de-escalate conflict. But him saying that we shouldn't have done that, I disagree. You don't have a choice. That ended the war. That basically ended the war. It's a tragedy, but it ended the war. I mean, it's just how these things work. It's history. You know, hopefully we could have a foreign policy that would kind of de-escalate that so we wouldn't have to be getting involved in these foreign conflicts to begin with. That doesn't mean that we have to go out there and do this whole, globalist routine. But Trump's foreign policy itself is probably the best across the board. So, no, I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. I like Tucker Carlson. You have a lot of people out there, mainly DeSimps, the diehard DeSantis or bust people that are like critiquing or getting mad at him about it. It's like, you're really mad at him because he didn't support your candidate. That's where this literally comes from. And second of all, it's not that big of a deal. I could disagree with it. His take, I think there's some takes of his that I disagree with, but there's a lot of takes I agree with. He needs to be back at Fox, ideally. The fact that they got rid of him basically just was them caving to the left and destroying a good chunk of their audience that already was dwindling. Man Milk for Two says atom bombs were an awful decision we needed to take. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it probably, what exactly did people anticipate to happen? It basically just sped up the ending of it. Some people say it would have ended anyways. I'm sure it would have ended anyways, but, to say, oh, it's this horrible thing that we did, I don't need to apologize for it. Not saying that there are things that we've done that we shouldn't have done, obviously. We've done things as a nation like the Iraq War. It was a waste of time, money, resources. But the whole, but we in a war we were already involved in, we took action that happened to be a little bit extreme. A lot of people died. I mean, how many people died in that war? Tens of millions or close to that? Like, if you want to be honest, how many people died because of the thing that ended it? Like, estimates show like 60, 70,000. So I can't really get behind this, moral grandstanding. But at the end of the day, he's more than welcome to have his opinion. Like, to rake the guy over the coals for it is dumb in my book. But I do think that overall, what else would you do in that situation? That's something that people need to take into consideration. But let's see, any more? It seems like Trump's at 82.3. That's kind of stabilized. We don't have any new votes in out of the... Okay, he gained in Montgomery. He's at 66. He's going to likely gain in some more of these vote dumps in the Philly suburbs. I want all of these counties to be the same color. That's our goal. I think they will be. Delaware will likely join these two soon, and then every one of these counties is going to join the red. But we got 43% of the vote remaining to be counted, but at least they're counting the early votes first. How good is that for a change? Joe Longo says even Eisenhower admitted the nukes were unnecessary. Japan was already suing for peace. Well, I mean, even if technically true, one could say that it's not like at the end of the day the worst thing in the world or whatever. We don't know how it would have really panned out. I probably should do more research on it, not gonna lie. But at the end of the day, I'm not like, oh, well, this is some horrible thing that we did. It's just war. It's how war operates. I don't like to be involved in these wars, mainly these endless wars like those. But at the end of the day, we were attacked. If we would have done it sooner, maybe we would have ended it. I don't know. But I just can't. I can't feel strongly about it either way, which is why I think the people that are like raking Tucker over the coals for it are also in the wrong. He can have his own opinion. I just personally don't think it was a comment that I fully can get behind. But that's beside the point. More votes are being tabulated. Dean Phillips gained 0.1%. You see that there. Anyways, guys, like the stream. Let's get to 2,500 likes. 2,500. Can we get there? I think we can. Make sure you hit that like button down below. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet as well. Trump is running up the score. Can he get to 83? We're about to find out. But looking at the full results of this, let's see which counties. Yeah, see, a lot of these collar counties in the Philadelphia suburbs, that is early vote that you're seeing there. That is early vote. And still, he's winning, but he's going to be winning by a lot more when more votes come in. You see Lycoming County, this county right here, decent-sized county, very Republican, very pro-Trump. That's all the way in 89%. Lackawanna County, Scranton, he got 87% in Scranton, assuming that's right, that he got 95% of the vote is in. But he's getting in the 90s in a lot of these, rural counties, getting close to that. Cumberland County is still lagging behind. Not entirely sure why that is, but maybe with the remaining votes he could gain. Explorer Bear says, I've been warning people that mail-in votes and suburban white women who hate Trump and because of Roe will give Biden the win. Well, there may not be enough, which is the problem. Some people, you could do the same thing with the opposite narrative. You could be like, well, Republicans voting in person early, increasing their turnout more in some places, and the whole border crisis is going to give Trump the win. Rich says, why didn't Republicans try to put forth a referendum to end mail-in ballots in Rust Belt states? They did amendments in Wisconsin for Zuckerbucks. Well, that's a good point. They probably could. I don't know to what extent they'd have support, because it is true that there's a lot of people that do like to vote by mail, for better or worse, but could they maybe make one that scales it back a little bit? Maybe. I think you can get one of those passed. But yeah, referendums, if the left's going to do it and they're going to get everything that they want out of them because they worded it in certain ways, Republicans need to do the same, which is why the Wisconsin ones were pretty good in my opinion. And it's a good thing that they passed. But yeah, so far, assuming the percentage of the votes in is correct, Republicans are on par for 1 million votes. Democrats, on the other hand, they're going to be getting more, but not by a ridiculous amount, not by the margin that they led by in the 2020 totals. So that's actually surprising. I didn't anticipate Republicans to really compete that well with the total turnout, but they have so far. And yep, Delaware County is now 70-30 Trump. That is huge. That is huge. So already he went from 58 to 70. Rich says, I think mail-in ballots for over 65 disabled military and people living abroad is fine, just not no excuse mail-ins. Yeah, I don't like the whole no excuse. It was never no excuse absentee. If you're going to have an excuse, there's other valid excuses. I'll be out of state. I can't make it this day. Whatever. That's fine. But I really feel as if just this, and the worst part about it in terms of these mail-in ballots is also some states that have universal systems, because then they mail a ballot to everybody. They get the ballots back. Some people are reportedly on record saying that they received some from previous addresses, and it's not something that is like as secure. They say most secure election in history. It's not the most secure. It was the most insecure election we've ever seen, least secure election by every objective metric. Now, maybe this election will be more transparent. I think you can make the case. I think we can win it. But still, I don't know where those votes came in from. So that I think that probably came in. What was that one county that was barely? It wasn't Butler. It must have been another county. But Trump gained in Erie with that vote dump. Allegheny, he gained a tiny bit. Milky Way Gaming says we also need to use VBM and ballot harvesting. We do. We do. I mean, if you can't use the election system, like obviously, if you don't want to vote and send your ballot back by mail, I don't think you necessarily should. But waiting until election day when you can like vote early in person or at least drop the ballot off beforehand is not good. Also, especially for primaries, you get to spend more time with your ballot that way, and it helps out. But just mailing it back and forth, you should just have to be able, if you can, to take the ballot, take it to the, and you can do this, people don't, but you can take it to the election center, wherever the ballots are supposed to go, and you drop it off there. PennDoc says Wisconsin and Pennsylvania are a dead tie. Polls are a tie, and Biden gets more votes in both primaries. That doesn't mean it. I've said this before. It doesn't mean anything. First of all, Wisconsin is an open primary. That is something that you see more Democrats that it'll still cross over for Haley. They're still doing that, for one. And for two, Republicans, again, not voting on Election Day. What did you have on Election Day? Bad weather across the entire state. Democrats vote early. That's why they did better. So that explains that. In terms of Pennsylvania, I expected Biden to get more votes than Trump because Pennsylvania has more registered Democrats than they do registered Republicans, and there's no uncommitted option on the ballot. So Biden getting, when it's all said and done, probably around 950,000 votes and Trump getting around, you do the math, probably 850,000 votes. It's not that big of a deal. It's really not. Chester's at 72. So he's gaining in these places. Delaware's at 70. I don't know why it hasn't fully turned over the color. Maybe it's at like 69.8 or something like that. Bucks County, he's at 75. So he's really gained in some of these places. Philadelphia, 81%, but 54% of the vote not yet reported. It was early votes in Butler County that most likely saw Haley's margin tick up by a point or two. But that's where we're at. So 65%. Okay, and you see Trump gained another 0.1%. I don't know where that came from. But still, his margins across the state, I wouldn't say there's a single county that has all of its votes and that he's doing particularly bad in. I mean, you look at the 2020 map here. Yeah, he obviously is underperforming in some of these counties around Philadelphia, but that's commonplace. Ancestral Republicans exist, just like Dean Phillips is doing better in a bunch of these counties. Like, he's getting 18% in this county. It's not a lot of votes, but those three voters, I guarantee you all three of them are going to vote for Trump because it's just a pro-Trump county, but it might have some. And yeah, 48% in Greene County. That's a very ancestrally Democrat county. I think it voted for Mondale over Reagan. It barely voted for McCain in 2008. I think that was the first time it flipped. And Dean Phillips is getting 20% in Greene County. So that is something. He's getting double digits in some of the counties around Pittsburgh. On Point Politics says Trump is doing pretty well for being a non-incumbent and having a pseudo-Republican throwing off his margin. Trump can win Pennsylvania. We need to vote as soon as possible. We do. Before early voting starts, they're going to try all their shenanigans. We saw this with the Atlantic story, the suckers and losers hoax that's already basically been debunked thoroughly. I mean, the concept of it didn't even make any sense from the get-go, but they did it the day, like a few days before military ballots went out. They released it strategically. That was something that was done intentionally to hurt Donald Trump. That's why they did it. So, yeah, Beaver County, which is kind of suburban Pittsburgh, Trump is at 86, and there's a lot of Election Day vote left to count in Beaver County. So, this is something that you're going to see his margin go up. We've got 34% left to count. So overall, if we're on election night and it's 10:19 on the East Coast, obviously there's more votes to count. So maybe it doesn't get counted this fast, but you're already seeing around 70% of the vote being counted, which is huge. Maybe you'd say 50, but that's not bad for 10 o'clock in Pennsylvania to be at 50. You know, last time we were stuck for a long time, and as long as the votes get tabulated and they get counted, it's a good thing. So we'll see. I don't know how long I'm going to go on for. Maybe until the hour is over. Robert says, my New York Times page is Trump at 82.8. Well, that's exactly what it's saying for me too, because that's what we use. They're not good for a lot of things, but they are very good for election content. New York Times, their maps, the interactive maps, they are pretty much very difficult to beat. So they do get credit for that. They get a lot of credit for it. Let's see. But Butler County, 3%, that's not a lot. Trump's going to get a lot of raw votes out of Butler when it's all said and done. He definitely, at a minimum, is going to be getting in the mid-80s there. It's what he's getting pretty much everywhere. Even Chester County, 72%. You know, you compare it to last time, He only got 86 in Chester, and that's going up, by the way. The 72 is going up. Is Haley still going to be at 28 in Chester County? I doubt it when all the votes are counted. Trump might get in the low 80s, but again, Trump's not an incumbent. He's not like a new candidate on the scene. I mean, these would be insane numbers for a new candidate on the scene, even somebody going up against someone who dropped out. But still, let's see. I don't think we have any more super chats. So we could look in regular chat. We still have how many people? 2,500 people in chat. Like the stream. Let's get to 3,000. Let's get to 3,000 likes. Emerson 2020 had Biden by 5 in Pennsylvania. Now it's Trump by 4. Well, this is also true. The polling, if you apply the polling errors from 2020, Trump is in a very good position. But the polls we saw in 2022, but even before early voting started, they were somewhat accurate. So I think this election is going to be one down the stretch. It's going to be one by what happens in August, September. So long as there's no October surprise, I don't think that's going to change much. But that's really when the battlefield's going to kick in. You got to go out there and chase these ballots as much as you can. So we're at 2/3 reporting on the Republican side now. Democrats are at 74% reporting. Yeah, Biden's not getting 1 million votes tonight. Trump, on the other hand, is not going to get 1 million, but Republicans in total very well may get 1 million. So that's important to note. Okay. So nothing new out of Montgomery. Nothing new out of Delaware. He's up to 82% in Philadelphia, if we didn't know that already. Berks County, he's at 85. Lehigh County, he's at 82. Northampton finished at 86. Monroe, he's at 87. Still more vote to count. Pike County, 88 more vote to count. Wayne County, 84 more to count. He finished in a lot of these counties in the mid to high 80s. Some of them he even got in the 90s. So, Polite Rude Guy says Trump won PA. He'll win it again. Well, we'll see. He's got to beat whatever margin was there if true. So I think he can. I mean, you're going to see the state rebound. I really feel as if these off-year elections don't tell you anything. People think they matter because they have to fall back on that as a crutch. But by that same logic, you have to believe that Trump's going to win Florida by 20 points. And he's not going to if these off-year elections really matter. Now, he might gain, but that's a little bit different. Trump on the ticket can energize these voters who don't show up for midterm years across the Rust Belt, which is going to keep it relatively competitive. Regardless, it's going to be close. I think he has to just keep hammering home the border stuff because that's just Biden's biggest failure. And just keep reminding people of the failures. This election needs to be nothing more than a referendum on whose presidency was better, Trump's or Biden's, because everybody's going to pick Trump if they have 5 brain cells and they're an undecided voter, which if they're an undecided voter, maybe they don't have much more than 5, but still. Comrade Dushkin says, are these margins promising? I'd say that they're all right. They're not the best, but they're pretty much in line, maybe a little bit above my expectations for the night. I mean, the gap between Trump and Biden in the percentages is also significantly decreased. Also, that might be an error. That's probably an error. There's no way Dean Phillips won that county. That's got to be fake. That's got to be a tabulation error. He might have got 10, but he didn't win that county. There was a tabulation error in a Texas county where they accidentally in the primary counted all the election day votes for Haley, and they certified it. So that was a big mess, but it's not like it really means much. But Trump's margin in Texas was actually better than it really showed on the map, because that county just completely dropped the ball with their counting. Got to make sure that doesn't happen again. But yeah, Chris Christie was winning county. Oh, yeah, he's winning Oklahoma. You had DeSantis winning Kenosha County, Wisconsin, I think, back in that primary. Like, it just was never sustainable. It was never going to hold up. So, seems like Trump's weakest county so far is Cumberland, in terms of a county that's mostly in. So, I don't know what's going on in Cumberland County itself. Last time you look at it, he did better than the statewide average. This time, not entirely so much. But he's doing better in Philadelphia City, most likely, compared to the statewide average. Some of these other collar counties, he's not really running as far behind. Those are the counties that have much larger populations. But it's a county that Trump won by 10.5 percentage points in the 2020 election. And this is also a county, if we want to look at the Democrat primary turnout, Biden with 19,000 votes. Trump still has more votes than Biden has in that county. So that's something to take note of. I guess it's like, is it like because it's suburban Harrisburg? I don't know. I have no idea. But it's the margins overall for the night are not bad. They're not like, oh, this is so good either. It's just like we're just like watching it come in. These races are already decided. I mean, we know this by now. And Trump doing so well in these counties compared to the rest of the state might be because of the fact that you have a competitive House primary in that district, which is also an interesting thing to note. You look at the margins around here in the he's like getting 90% in some of these counties. So that might be good news, because that in the places where you had higher turnout or a higher reason for people to turn out, Donald Trump is doing far better in those places. So let's check on the Democrat side. Summer Lee won her race. She won by over 20, so the squad keeps their member. The 14th district, that is, the jury's still out on that one, but again, that is a very Republican district. That is not going to flip anytime soon, especially with Trump on the ballot. It's going to probably get redder and redder. So we're waiting on more votes to come in out of mainly Butler County. Montgomery and Delaware, still not 70%. But again, 37% reported in Montgomery, 36% reported in Delaware. A lot of the smaller counties reporting their votes. Philadelphia suburbs, keep in mind for election time as well, they're still lagging. But it is true that a lot of the votes remaining in them tend to be election day votes, because you look at this, the percentage in lags behind in Chester, Montgomery County. Biden's at 70% of the votes in there, but 37%. So the remainder of the votes in that county that we might see on election night, if this holds, which, maybe they'll count it differently, but assuming they're doing what they're doing now, Trump should see a later surge. You look at the city of Philadelphia, it's a little bit slower, 59% in, but Trump is 54% in, so little bit behind. Bucks County, 51% in. For Biden, it's on the Democrat side, 70% in. So again, later votes in the Philadelphia area might be more Republican. When it's election day, we'll see. The Sandwich Man says the heck is up with Pennsylvania's 139th special election. I have to look at this. 139. I have no idea. I just know that Republicans, I think, held it. I don't know who Truly Skibber is, but He seemingly has lost to the Republican there. So I don't know. Comrade Dushkin says, is McKenzie MAGA? I actually don't know. I didn't hear much about this race. There was no like clear candidate that emerged that was like seen as like the base candidate. There was no like the electable candidate either. I don't know much about Ryan McKenzie, to be completely honest. We're going to probably find out in the coming days as we hear more and more about the results. But yeah, again, apparently a lot of people were freaking out about the early results. And again, it was mail-in votes because it showed Trump is winning 11-1 among in-person voting. 11-1 in the state. That is huge. But in the mail-in vote, ancestral Republicans, yeah, that's kind of where Haley was doing a little bit better. But now that more votes have come in, that margin went from a 30-point lead or less than that for Trump. Now it's at almost a 70-point lead for Trump. Traveling with Joe says, if Trump campaigns with McCormick when doing rallies in Pennsylvania, does he bring him over the top even if Trump only wins by a tilt margin? I mean, it is true that there's never been a Senate candidate in the history of our country that has been a Republican and lost a state on the same ticket that Trump won. So in terms of Pennsylvania, a little bit different because Bob Casey peels off. He appeals to those more, I guess you would say, rural, ancestral Dems. Even if they might vote for Trump, they might vote for Trump and Casey. And McCormick is just not really the best candidate. I mean, this is a guy who celebrated outsourcing. He kind of turns off a lot of Trump voters. But I don't think that the ticket split's going to be ridiculous. I think Trump might take Pennsylvania by like a point, and then Casey wins by like around 3. But it's not a high priority race. It's really not. But they're going to throw money behind him, which I think is a waste. They should be spending it in other states like Wisconsin. Michigan's an open seat. That could flip. But the establishment wants mid-Cormick in there. He wants mid-Cormick because of the fact that it's going to be something that really benefits the establishment, because they have their guy in there that's just, weak. They'd rather get him over the finish line than somebody like Lake in Arizona, who might be a little bit of a, I guess you would say, a rabble-rouser, a fighter, somebody who goes out there and wants to dismantle the system. They do that in these primaries too, which is insane, because they intervene in these primaries to make sure they can get the weakest, always the weakest person. At least Daines has tried to compromise and say we need the strongest person that he believes that can win. So that's something that's more beneficial. We have to take electability into account technically. I think viability is more like the right term to use, but at the end of the day, we can't be just folding over and putting up people. But I mean, nobody wanted to run for this seat. And McCormick's probably going to lose, and we'll never have to hear from him again. So, and if he does win, you have an extra Republican senator. So there you go. Johnny Heartdog for 10 says, tonight is very anticlimactic, not better or worse than expected, neither good night nor bad. I don't think we have any better idea of how November will go after tonight. No, I think if anything, it shows it's going to be very close. So more votes came in from Montgomery County. Trump has crossed 70% in Montco. He's at 76 in Bucks. Delaware is at 70. So the only county he's not at 70 hasn't really reported very many votes. And I anticipate that these are early votes because Butler County is somewhat similar to Beaver. It's more red-leaning than Allegheny, and Trump's at 80 in Allegheny. So unless there's some late mail-ins or whatever that swing against Trump, which is important to take note of, but if Trump keeps gaining, that's a good sign, because he's already at 80% in Allegheny County, and he's in the mid to high 70s in all of these counties that even when he was an incumbent was getting in the mid 80s. So that's good news. And he's also, I think he probably gets 80% in Bucks as well. Let's see. But he's not doing, like, relatively speaking, in the Philly suburbs, when all the votes are going to be counted, he's not doing that poorly, which is a good sign. So, and in northeastern Pennsylvania, he really did well. But I think, yeah, it is true that a lot of that was just because of turnout dynamics, because of the House primary that was there, that was more competitive than a lot of these other House primaries. So maybe you could anticipate that that's the reason why. But either way, Trump saw improvement there, which is good. So, yes, someone in chat says, is it better for McCormick to win than Casey? Of course. Pennsylvania has primaried out senators before, so if he's really that bad, I think he could be facing a challenge come 2028 or 2030. So, and either way is better than Casey. So if it increases the size of the majority, it's better. Some people will say I'd rather have the person who is a known enemy than a traitor. But if you already know that they're a traitor, why exactly does it matter? Just have low expectations. The commander says, seems the margin between the Dems and the GOP will be under 50,000. If that's true, it's good news. Now, I'm sure we're going to hear, oh, Biden has more votes than Trump. It's like the primary is settled. And you also had an expensive Democrat primary in the House as well in the Pittsburgh area. 92% of those votes are in. Wise Up says Sheets should have voter registration drives now after Biden and the DOJ lawsuit. They should. In red areas, they should. I mean, there needs to be drives everywhere. Oh, look at that. Delaware County, 75% Trump. He's gaining everywhere. Now, his margin didn't move statewide. And that county, I mean, even the election day votes probably aren't going to be any more than 83-17, just because it is a county that is not really that friendly to Trump and whose Republicans are not that friendly to Trump either. But the fact that he's increasing his margins in these places is a good sign. 74% of the vote is in. Trump's at 83. Will he get above? Will he get to 85? Because if he gets 85, I think you could say that's good night territory, not average to expected night. Now, the overall turnout sign is probably a good thing for Trump tonight. That gap is declining significantly. You see that there. It's 80, 90,000, and that's with more Democrats reporting their votes in terms of the votes that are in. More Democrat votes are in as a percentage of all votes compared to what it will be like at the end of the day. But we don't really have much out of Butler County. They also fixed the whatever county, I think it was McKean County, that had Dean Phillips winning. They fixed it. Now it's at 80% for the Democrats. So it's lagging a little bit, but not as much as it was before. So the gap is indeed closing as more votes report. I don't know how long we're going to go. I think maybe another 20 minutes is fair. I don't want to be streaming for 6 hours just to see the vote totals move 5%. But if you guys have any super chats, I'd encourage you guys to send them in now so they get read. We still have 2,500 people in chat. Like the stream, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe, but can we get to 3,000 likes? Can we hit 3,000? We're so close. We're 239 away. But yeah. But we're knocking on the door of 178,000 subscribers. So make sure you guys do hit the like button. Make sure you guys also subscribe as well to the channel. We're almost there in the like department and the sub department. I don't know if we're going to hit it on stream, but make sure you subscribe. If you are subscribed and you feel like you need to do something, hit the bell. Make sure you turn on all notifications so you never miss another video, another live stream, and there's going to be a lot more of them, I tell you that much. There's going to be a lot more moving forward because this is barely just getting started. When the conventions hit, that's going to be insane. Now he's at 83.1. 83.1, Chester 72, Delaware 75. surprisingly doing better in Delaware than Chester by a few points. Maybe it's the areas that have reported, but Bucks, he's now at 78% in Bucks, so that keeps going up. Philadelphia County now 75% in, but for the Democrats, it's lagging a little bit behind. So maybe there's some mail-ins there that haven't been completely tabulated. But either way, we need more votes out of Butler County. Hopefully that can boost Trump up closer to 85% because it is a big county. You could look at this. It gave Trump 65.6% of the vote. You know, Beaver County was less Republican than Butler. But he actually did worse in the primary in 2020 in Butler for some reason. I'm not sure why. But in the general, he did better. He got 2/3 of the vote. It netted him about, just under 40,000 votes. So it should probably boost him in the primaries. And as for the Democrats, the margins are going to kind of decrease a little bit. Magic says Tulsi Gabbard's the perfect VP pick. Well, she's flip-flopped a lot. Whether you think she's genuine or not is irrelevant. They'll just call her a flip-flopper, grifter, whatever. Now, maybe she's 100% genuine. I tend to like Tulsi Gabbard. But you do have people that are like, well, is this actually going to, help Trump when she's so much of a wild card? Some people don't really like her. Now, we did the poll. She had 80% approval among people in the live chat, but it's also about the other effects it might have too. So now he's at 83.2. More votes. The votes just keep coming in. He keeps going up. But there's 22% of the vote remaining. Are those ballots mail or not? I tend to believe in many cases they're not. But still, at least we have 90% of the vote in Allegheny. But there are votes left across the state. And I think the main reason why we're watching this now is not because, we're seeing his margins go up, but it's a telltale sign of how they're going to do things in November. So the fact that Trump gained later is good. We like it, but when you're at 80% of the vote in, you don't want to be sitting at the top of a downward spiral like we saw in 2020. Ben says, I'm starting to like the idea of Rubio for VP. He could do a hell of a lot worse. He could. Rubio is somebody who I would have said hell no to 5-10 years ago. Now it's just like, if he picks him, he picks him. Because, the amnesty stuff, that's a real concern, but it's also like how much time has passed since then. I feel like he's somebody that blows the way the wind does, which is in and of itself not the worst thing, because if he's going to be in that role, he's not going to try. I don't think he's like the type to actively subvert Trump. Trump mogs the guy, legitimately speaking. But is Trump going to pick him? I don't know. Yes, I know about the Florida thing. Yes, I think there's better VPs potentially out there, but we'll see. But I don't think that Rubio for being Trump's VP is going to be the worst thing in the world. Like sometimes people will talk about him in the same vein that they talk about people like Nikki Haley or somebody along those lines. So I think he'd be better than Kristi Noem, actually, who I really don't trust because I know that she's the type to get in his way of his agenda. And I don't think Trump's going to pick her because, especially with the whole abortion thing, and she's going on CNN basically saying that she doesn't believe in any exceptions. That's not something Trump wants for electoral purposes. The Commander says, mathematically, Biden's going to lose around 200,000 votes between the 2020 and 2024 primaries. Trump's going to only lose 50,000 at most. It's true. When you look at the votes, when it's all said and done, we'll see what the end result is. But as more votes come in the collar counties, it's helped Trump to a point. But will it continue to help Trump? I mean, depends on how the late ballots break. Hopefully they break in his favor by more than what the margin currently is. Hopefully they're all election day votes. We have yet to see. But either way, the primary's over. Donald Trump and the Republicans are going to combine for 1 million votes. Joe Biden and the Democrats are going to combine for 1 million votes. I mean, this doesn't tell us anything. This whole, but the Haley voter thing doesn't really mean much either, in my opinion. Because you had a good chunk of the GOP primary electorate defect from Trump in 2020, Biden now, and, people that see her on the ballot, they might be iffy on. Some people might be iffy on Trump. That doesn't mean they're not coming home. This is a closed primary. It's different than a state like, Wisconsin, when Trump got less of the vote. But you could explain, there's going to be crossovers because Democrats want to own Blumph. And that's why her best county is Madison. It's not Waukesha. Like the suburbs of Milwaukee voted more for Trump than the state as a whole, with the exception of Ozaukee, which is the smallest of the three. PennDOC as challenger should get more votes than incumbent. Not necessarily. I mean, you look at this, go back to 2020. Trump got 934,000 votes. I think that was more than what Biden got, right? I'm pretty sure Biden got, and this race was over too. He only got 914. And there's more registered Democrats too. And in an election that's already decided, more people are likely to just vote if they're the type to vote by mail. So I disagree. I think that you can't look at this and say it's a bad night for Donald Trump. That's like a political hackish thing to do. I'm not saying it's a great night for Trump. I'm just saying it doesn't tell us anything that we already didn't know, or it doesn't tell us anything new. It doesn't. People on social media freak out over every little shift in any direction in every single poll. They're wasting time. Like has Biden technically gained in some polls? Yeah, I mean, I don't think his Trump plus 4 polling lead was ever sustainable. And it was just maybe because of a response bias after Iowa. And then maybe Democrats are coming home to Biden because now they realize he won't be replaced. He's still polling in the gutter. An incumbent president at 44%. You're going to tell me that's good? We could look at the 2012 polls. Go look at the 2012 polls. Tell me find me a time that Obama was polling below 45%. You can't. You just can't, especially this far out of the election. The polls on this day in history had Obama polling at 47.5%. Now, it is true the final aggregate did underestimate him, but at the end of the day, it's also underestimated Trump both times, so that's not really the best argument. And Biden's polling above his approval rating, whereas Obama was polling below his approval rating. And his approval rating can change, but it's not necessarily that big of a deal. Cindy Silfies, thank you for the 1. But 79% of the vote is in. Someone says, I don't think Trump can deliver the Philly suburbs. I don't think he will deliver the Philly suburbs because the Philly suburbs are all blue. He's not going to deliver them, and I don't think that he is going to win any of those counties. Bucks would be an outlier. I don't think he's going to win Bucks. It might be closer, but still, he just needs to stop the bleeding. And there's no reason for me to believe that he can't do that because Biden is not popular. Biden getting Democrat votes in a Democrat primary in an area that's becoming increasingly Democrat but less ancestrally Democrat doesn't tell me anything. Those counties are probably going to be, if you add them all up surrounding Philadelphia, maybe they're a point or two bluer than they were in 2020. Trump can make up with that alone just based off of gaining a little bit in Philadelphia. That's another thing. When it's all said and done in Philadelphia city proper, Trump is probably going to end up with around 15,000 votes or so. Last primary cycle, he got roughly in line with that, but still, as a percentage of the state, as a percentage of his overall vote total, it's likely the raw votes dip. The fact he's doing better in Philadelphia probably is a good sign. So Yeah, he's almost to 700,000 votes. He's probably going to get 800,000. I don't know if he's going to get 900,000. It depends how the remainder of the votes come in. You know, if he's winning 100% of the remainder of the votes, he's probably going to get close to 1 million, but that's probably not going to happen. So if you want to divide, or you want to add up the total, do the math, there's going to be over 1 million votes cast. Trump's probably going to win like 85% of, just say 85% of what's left. That means he's probably going to gain, we could do the math here, 5.85. Okay, he's probably going to gain like another close to 200,000 votes, but not quite. So he probably will be in the mid 800,000 vote range when it's all said and done. So that is a drop from 2020, but Biden might drop as well, despite being an incumbent president. Although he might, actually, I think he does gain a little bit, come to think of it, but he's not going to hit 1 million. Yeah, that confirms it. That confirms it. Dean Phillips getting 6% in Philadelphia County, but only 3 to 4% in the collar counties. Interesting. Possibly some Hispanic voters there that are souring on Biden, voting for the other guy. That's probably the best way to chalk it up. You don't really see that as much in some of these counties where that's like Biden's, it's a strong suit. Keep in mind, he's kind of got a pseudo home field advantage in some of these counties because they're so close to Delaware. He's also the Scranton area, but at the end of the day, it may not be enough to carry him in a general election. It may not be enough. As Trump's vote share ticks up closer to 84% of the vote, I don't know what he's going to end up with when it's all said and done. I believe he's going to get, like I said, low to mid 80s, start of the stream. We're operating in low to mid 80s right now, so hopefully he gets there. Ben Doc says Dems overperforming today by 7 to 10%. Again, doesn't tell me anything. Democrats overperform, and you say overperforming right now by 7 to 10%, because that definitely, you know, Biden, they're at 887,000 votes. Republicans are not far behind. They're only behind by 40,000. That's with a lot more registered Democrats in the state than registered Republicans. So do with that what you will. You can overanalyze this to completion. It doesn't tell us anything new. You could point to data points that make Trump look better and say this is good for him. Then you could point to data points that say this is better for Biden. It doesn't tell us anything. You know, if Trump, like I said, if he was getting 60-some, 70-some percent, low to mid-70s in a closed primary in Pennsylvania, yeah, that's notice for concern. This isn't notice for concern. The Sandwich Man says, how much does the Haley vote break for Trump? Like I said, depends. If they voted for Trump in 2020, a lot of those voters will vote for Trump again. If they voted for Biden in 2020, a lot of those voters might vote Biden or third party. You know, maybe a fraction of them might go for Trump, but not a big amount of them. And those who voted for Trump in 2020 but now happen to still vehemently oppose Trump, maybe Trump, with those voters, there's question marks, but I don't think it's as big of a deal as some people make it out to be. Again, Trump's not an incumbent president. Nikki Haley is not Bill Weld. And she, you know, ran a campaign for quite some time. I don't think you have a lot of crossovers because it's a closed primary. But still, I just don't think it tells us that much. So it's a toss-up state. Pendoc says I'm talking about House races. Well, I haven't paid a lot of attention there, but there's a lot on both sides. It's hard to analyze in regards to that, but a lot of more seats are Republican. They're not really running any primary opponents, so that would arguably inflate the Dem margins because of that, which you could point to that and say that's good news for Trump. But we'll see. You look back at the state results here. U.S. House, This is a delegation that's mainly Republican, but look at these Republicans. How many Republican primaries did you even have in total that were contested? You had one. You had two. You had two primaries that were actually contested. On the Democrat side, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. You had 4. So 4 is a lot greater than 2. The Commander says, yeah, Biden loses 280,000. Dems lose 530,000. Trump loses 200,000. GOP loses 120,000. Losing Bernie Bros hurts. Don't think his endorsement helped. Well, the Bernie Bros are the type of people that are upset at Biden over Gaza. That's something that will give Donald Trump an advantage to some extent. So this is the last call, I think, for Super Chats. We're going to probably wrap it up sooner than later. We're 82. We've been doing this for 3 hours. We're 82% in. But if people want to keep the stream going, they're more than welcome to send in Super Chats. But this will be the last call, or we're going to end it in about 5 minutes or so. Will I keep the stream up? Yeah, I'm keeping the stream up. We had a lot of people tune in. We're going to keep it up. Almost, 50,000 people stopped by tonight. Oh, we had 3,000 likes. Like the stream. Make sure you guys subscribe. Let's get closer and closer to 178,000 subs. Easy the Legendary says, just got here. What's the gist of how it went? I really feel like it just went as expected. You see Trump, winning a primary by a lot after he's basically got the nomination, and then you see Biden doing the same thing. And as anticipated, Democrat turnout is indeed higher because Pennsylvania has more registered Democrats. And that's something I anticipated. It was true in 2020. It was true in 2016. And it's true in 2024, but not as big of a gap as it was in 2020. So you'll see that pretty much across the board. Trump running up the score. A lot of these counties mid to high 80s across the T. Some of the more suburban counties around Philadelphia, there's more votes to come for Trump in those counties. He probably increases his margins, but he's not going to be, hitting 85, 90%. Even as an incumbent, he was not hitting 90% in Chester, Montgomery. He hit it in Bucks, but Delaware and Chester, he didn't even hit 87. So do with that what you will. 82% of the votes are in. We'll continue to monitor. We might do a video tomorrow, probably maybe not entirely on this. We've been talking a lot about Pennsylvania, but sure, there will be a mention of it. There might be a segment in tomorrow's video on the Pennsylvania topic for sure. We're not fully letting it go. It's an important state. It's ground zero, but this doesn't tell me much. Vote margin differential, if you want to really calculate it and add it up, because there's less of the Republican vote, and Republicans are probably at around 860, 865. That's not far behind the Democrats. It is true that Trump is a little bit behind Biden, but again, Biden's an incumbent president. So it doesn't really tell me very much at all. If you really want to spin this as Trump is cooked in Pennsylvania, then you're wasting time. You're literally just wasting time. You want to add up all the Haley voters that vote for Trump at the end of the day? He's probably at around 90, and then you have to give him the Dean Phillips. A lot of the Dean Phillips voters, he's probably close to topping Biden. So it's just a waste of time to overly analyze it. But you can't spin this as, oh, it's the worst night for Trump, when he's getting in the mid-80s in a primary state. I mean, if people paid attention and actually turned out, if this primary was still going on and Trump was actually spending time and energy and money on this race, then probably he would be doing better, I would anticipate. Now, Butler County's in 84% for Trump in Butler County. Surprisingly, again, it ran behind Beaver. But, okay, yeah, Warren County's drunk again. Would you look at that? But that's where we're at. Trump and Biden, once again, it's neck and neck. This is a state that's going to be neck and neck when it's all said and done. The polling's neck and neck. The registration data is neck and neck. Actually, it's favoring Republicans. And it's not like we saw a lot of crossover vote to a ridiculous amount. So it's not like you could say the registration data in a place like Chester County moving right is like a bad thing for Trump. But yeah, 83%. That's kind of the benchmark, was 82, 83. He seemingly is getting that. And we'll see what happens in the coming primary weeks. Obviously, there's some more primaries, but we'll see. Random commenter says this feels like a loss with all the work TPA has done. Assume you're referring to Turning Point Action. I don't really know what they've done for primaries. I mean, they need to be focusing on the general election, but I have no idea what they've done. I mean, what did they do in 2020? Were they even much of a thing? I don't know. So we need to be setting our benchmarks, improving on it, but saying, "Oh, well, you didn't win 99.5% of the vote in a primary. Here's why this is bad news for Trump." Okay. People like to doom on the right. You have people that are on the right who are rooting for Trump to lose on the internet. The real life is not the internet. So it is what it is. All these people are angry people. They're the people that gravitate towards Twitter because you don't have people like this on Instagram, on YouTube as much. There's no DeSantis YouTube or like, YouTube channels that are like never Trump on the right. You don't see them do well because the only people that really, I feel like, get up in arms about that kind of stuff tend to exist on Twitter. Because you can be dumb and not know what you're talking about, but still semi-articulate a thought in 180 characters and gain some sort of an audience because everybody's just mad on that platform. It's kind of basically become the conservative version of Reddit in a way, because it seems like it's gotten a lot more right-leaning, as Reddit's always been very left-leaning, especially after they purged a lot of the conservative subreddits back in the day. I mean, even before that, it was probably like 85% left-leaning. Yeah, Reddit is worse. I'm not saying Reddit's not worse. But as for like the people on the right, this is definitely something. But you look at this, 80% in Bucks. So he's at 83.4. Biden's at 92.9. As an incumbent president, that's not really where you want to be either. As somebody who's the nominee, historically, but not an incumbent president, Trump is breaking expectations. But no, it's the worst result in the world. But we're going to end the stream. It's been a fun one. And now we're at 85% reporting. And Trump has maintained his 83.4 to 16.6% lead. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching the stream. Make sure you guys like the stream before you go. Subscribe before you go. Hit the bell before you go. Follow me on social media. The links are in the description down below, but I only really use Twitter or X and Instagram. I don't really use the rest of them. But anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. Another victory for Trump. We'll see how it shakes out. The state's going to be neck and neck in November regardless. This doesn't tell us anything. But Red Eagle out.